Hello, everyone. This is episode 201, and we started a few minutes ago, but then I started singing and everything broke. So, unfortunately...
I did put those two together, but you're not wrong.
I started singing a really, really good song, by the way, that I made up in my head.
It was so good. It was so good, like, I couldn't even sing it again. Like, you'll never even know it, because, like, it was too good. Your ears would bleed. You don't...
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. It was like heavenly choir singing, and then all of a sudden, all the audio equipment just died.
So. Again, your ears would bleed.
So here we are in my very monotone, not singing voice. Welcome to episode 201.
Welcome.
That's why we drink.
I missed you, but I feel like I saw you recently.
I also miss you, and I feel like I haven't talked to you, even though you called me at 6 a.m. today. So
that's okay. I'm glad you said something. First of all, I should have not been behind the wheel because I was just saying I missed you because in my head I was like, didn't we talk recently? And it was this morning. Okay, got it. I've taken a nap, by the way. I've taken a nap.
Okay, good. I was gonna ask because I answered the phone. It was like 9 a.m. my time. I was taking Gio to daycare, and I was like, oh my god, it's 6 a.m. M's time. Something must be terribly wrong. And so I answer, and I'm like, hello, and M goes, I know you have phone anxiety, but everything's fine. And I was like, it's not my phone anxiety. It's the fact that you're awake at 6 a.m. Something must be wrong.
I called with the intention that the first thing I'd say is, don't panic, everything's fine. Because
I was also behind the wheel, so it was a bad combination. Wait, we also FaceTimed last night, M. Whatever.
Okay, that checks out.
So yesterday, I was like, I'm going to do this cool digital escape room Lemon created, and, you know, as vengeance for the lemon napping from yesteryear.
Literally, like, almost exactly a year ago.
That's right.
I gave you your first escape room.
Oh my God. And that video is going to take me another year to edit. And so if you haven't seen it, it's on the Patreon of the lemon napping incident. Escape room in M's apartment. And so M was like, I'm gonna do a 200th episode extravaganza and make a digital escape room. And boy, oh boy, was it tough. And people on the internet were freaking out at you. I was like asking for clues. I mean, it was tough.
I appreciate that although a lot of people have struggled through it, they're very committed to getting through it.
Yes.
I don't think I've heard of anyone who's just given up entirely. Everyone's like, I'm going to come back at this with a fresh mind the next day. And I'm like, wow, that's dedication. Granted, again, I'm the person who made it. So like, I really don't get a place, but I feel like I tried a lot harder on the lemon escape room.
I think I don't do enough escape rooms to get, like, I didn't really understand that you can reuse numbers include, like, I think I just didn't totally understand how it worked. I think the third one, maybe I'll be like, okay, yeah, I fucking got this.
Listen, I'm getting way too good at getting way too good at creating escape rooms. So I think it's going to be a little side hustle of mine. I was shocked that I was able to do that. I did it in a day, which, like, if I can do that one in a day, like, think of what I could accomplish in the time powerful. Like Allison's gone. Oh my God.
Too powerful.
See ya at the end of this month when I run my own escape room business. So I'm
out of our haunted apartment.
What else? I'm glad you liked it. I was nervous that it wasn't going to be hard enough, but apparently I need to calm the fuck down. So
no, you need to calm the fuck down. It was very difficult. I had to print things. I had to like Google things. I had to search, like, and that's part of the game. Like, you have to go into our podcast and find like clues. I mean, it is nutso. And I was just like so wildly impressed. And there was a point, okay, to be fair, one of the reasons I got stuck was because I, as Em says, knew Lemon too well and had some insider info that other listeners didn't have. So I got the number wrong anyway. So just saying.
You were too good at your job was the problem.
I was too good at knowing Lemon, who apparently had lemon napped me. But so Em posted the link so you can actually go do it. I also made a bit.ly to post it on Twitter. So it's bit.ly/Lemon's Revenge, I think it's called.
Yeah.
So you can go there. It's really fun, and let us know if you beat it, because it took me a long time. I filmed it, and it was an hour and 40 minutes of filming to get me through this thing.
I knew it was an hour 40 minutes because Allison asked me how long it took you, and I went through our text, and I was like, oh, she started at 2:30 and she ended at 4:15.
Okay, about 35 minutes was me screaming about how Lemon, like, I couldn't figure out that one date correctly, but M helped me.
I'm impressed with how far you got, because last night a lot of people were DMing me being like, I can't figure it out. And they were on like the earliest clue. And I was like, ooh, I don't want to be the one to tell you. But like, if you can't figure that one out, you're probably not going to make it.
You're on your own at this point.
And it's all through my Google Drive. So like I can see all the responses. Like, and so I can see how many people actually successfully got through the escape room. And right now it's only like 30 people. So like, and like hundreds have tried this thing. So I feel very,
and it's very difficult.
I feel like such an asshole, but whatever.
No, you don't. You love the power.
I do like that I have caused a stir, but I would like to unstir it sometimes.
I think a lot of us are afraid of impressed and afraid of your mind and how its operations. But anyway, so go try it. Oh, if you're on our thing, like this is just like a glimpse into like the chaotic things that were happening.
You know what's so funny? Everyone has been sending me their notes. Like I have so many DMs right now of random people's notes, and one person blew my mind, like made it wildly more difficult than I did, because they were like, am I on the right track, and sent me these words that were not even like, they were like Egyptian, and I was like, what is happening here?
So, like hieroglyphics.
It's very interesting to see how the human mind works. It's just all a downward spiral, but different downward spirals. So anyway, we've talked a lot about that. But yes, please, I made it for the 200th episode. I'm very happy that you liked it. And I'm glad other people are at least doing something during quarantine with their mind. Yeah,
the only thing that we realized that was like pretty wild. I mean, there's a lot of things we realized that was pretty wild. But one of the things that like stuck with me is that in both, so Em was like, remember that first lemon napping video, which I need to rewatch. I haven't watched it in like a year.
It's so
where
funny.
I guess there's a certain point where I'm screaming fish, but I don't know particularly why. But apparently there was a point where I just kept screaming fish, and that was I just got so worked up. And Em tells me this on FaceTime last night after I did the escape room, and I went, Em, you know what? During this thing by myself in my podcast studio while I was recording it, there was a point where I was screaming, fish? Is it a fish? And I don't know like what my brain like turns into.
It tapped into your previous PTSD from the last escape room.
It must just be some weird avenue that like gets unlocked when I'm doing a brain puzzle. But for whatever reason, I just start shouting fish repeatedly.
You know, Mark Zuckerberg would, it really has fucked me up, I think, because I have that same problem. But like when my brain blanks, like when I'm like, what was I just thinking about? My first thought is always Facebook. And I have no idea.
What?
I have no clue why.
Ew, that's so creepy.
Sitting in front of a TV and I'm like, what show do I want to watch? The first thing in my head is Facebook. And like when I get in front of a computer, I think like maybe like there is a chip in me. I'm not sure at this point, but like every time
there's some sort of a chip in you. Yeah, that's for sure.
Every time I have to like reboot my like it'll go into manual mode of my thinking. The first thought is always Facebook.
Which is so sad because in 20 years people will be like, what's Facebook? And you'll be like, a model 2005 where like people just can't access like an iPhone that doesn't update.
Everyone has right now. Yeah.
Oh my God. Anyway, sorry, but that I just wanted to bring that out because wow, that was a fun ride.
Thank
and also
you.
Like really infuriating, but also fun once it was solved.
Now that I know it's a little too much, the next one I make, I'll try to loosen it up a little bit. So sorry about that. But I probably will be making more of these in the future. I think this one, just because it was for the 200th, it was, I wanted everyone to have the experience, but I think in the future it would be a really nice addition to Patreon. So I think from now on I will be making escape rooms, and that might just be like something the Patreon folks get. So
and I'm editing the video of me, and then I FaceTimed M during it. So I'm going to make that into a Patreon video if you so choose to watch my pain.
I absolutely will do it on repeat. So Christine, I did something different today.
No, a Gemini did something different? Tell me more.
Well, I did something adult. I put on new sheets on my bed.
That is shocking.
And they were Brooklyn sheets. They divine. They were divine. I have never had comfier sheets in the whole wide world, and they look classy.
Yes, they do.
If someone were to walk in my room, they'd be like, "Ooh, someone's classy in here." And I'd say,
someone has walked in my room, and it was my mother, and she was like, "What?" she was like touching them. I was like, "Stop touching my bed." And she's like, "But they're so." I wasn't like, "Stop." I was like, "No, feel it and feel the pillows. They're so soft." I swear to God, these Brooklyn sheets. It's true. You feel like a grown up for the first time ever, really.
For the first time in ever. So Brooklyn was started by Rich and Vicky, who also tried to find beautiful home essentials that didn't cost an arm and a leg. And when they couldn't, they founded Brooklinen as the first direct-to-consumer bedding company.
Yeah, so they have over 50,000 five-star reviews and counting. They're high quality. They even have more than sheets. They have comforters, pillows, towels, loungewear. It's beautiful. I have like the pinstripe one. It's just a navy and it's like silky. Oh, it's so nice.
The next one I'm going to get is navy, but right now I have gray, and then I have the window pane one where it's like
that's a nice
white
one
with
too,
the gray.
yeah.
When Allison's family came to visit, we let them use those sheets, and they were like, "Oh,
so
these
classy.
these are your guest sheets." And really, we like gave them the fancy sheets, but we wanted them to think like we have fancy guest sheets.
Oh, these are just our spare sheets. Yeah.
Anyway, don't wait and do something nice for yourself. Go to brooklinen.com and use promo code DRINK to get 10% off your first order and free shipping.
That's BROOKLINEN.com and enter promo code DRINK for 10% off your first order plus free shipping.
brooklinen.com and use promo code DRINK at checkout. Hey, if you didn't know this, Christine and I, we need a lot of help.
Hey, how dare you? No, that's true.
1,000% true. And luckily, we have BetterHelp to help us.
Yes.
Come on. I mean, with everything going on in the world, especially this year, and just in our personal lives, there's always a reason to need to get something off your chest. And with BetterHelp, we can do that.
It's true. Even when I was working at Nickelodeon, I used BetterHelp, and it was so nice. Well, let me tell you what they are first, because you're like, what are you talking about? BetterHelp basically assesses your needs and matches you with your own licensed professional therapist, and you can start communicating with them in under 48 hours. So it isn't a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's actual professional counseling done securely online. And that's why when we were recording and touring and I was working full time, it was so nice to be able to go on my lunch break and like talk to somebody on a schedule that worked for me. BetterHelp really saved me, honestly.
I mean, really, one of the best aspects of it is that if you're traveling or if you're remote, I mean, you don't have to go to a brick and mortar place if it's not convenient for you, or if maybe you are someone who can't even leave the home, you've got help.
Yeah, especially now. Yeah, like you said, during
especially
COVID,
now.
you don't want to go to a waiting room and sit around. So
yeah,
very handy.
BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website and read their testimonials that are posted daily.
Visit betterhelp.com/drink. That's better HELP, and join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional.
In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. Wow.
Special offer for And That's Why We Drink listeners. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/drink.
My story today is something I have wanted to cover for a while. I knew of it since like the maybe it was the Harry Price or Houdini episodes, and I've known about it, but I never really looked into it. And now that I've done the research, I was like, whoa, there were some twisty turnies here I didn't see coming, and it's very fun. So please let me introduce to you the Fox sisters. Who are also known, according to Google, as the Rochester Knockers. They're also known as the Spirit Knockers of Rochester, and they're also known as the Rochester Rappings, or that's what the case is called. So,
alliteration.
A little alliteration. They're also known as the people who accidentally founded American Spiritualism.
Oh,
so
that sounds like some bullshit we would do. Oops, it was an accident.
Okay, so I want you to remember that you said that. I didn't I didn't put this in your mind, but I'm also going to say near the end of this, in like the late end of this, in the early end of this, there's a lot of similarities between them.
Okay.
Some weird things happen. So, but yeah, so I guess spiritualism, usually the founders are people like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and all that, but when it comes to the two waves of spiritualism in America, the first one came from the Fox sisters, and they did not mean to do this. So, fun fact, I didn't know this was an accident.
No.
So this happens, it starts in Hydesville, New York, and we're in the 1840s. You know it well. So 1848, the Fox family, they have 6 kids. I think the husband's name is John, and I'm pretty sure the mom's name was Margaret. The 6 kids were Maggie and Kate, who are our main characters. And there was also Leah, who we should remember for later. And then David, Elizabeth, and Maria. Elizabeth and Maria, we like never hear about again. So you don't have to
forget them.
You don't have to worry about them.
Got it.
So the last four there, Leah, David, Elizabeth, and Maria, were much older. And by the time this story was happening, they had already all moved out. So it was just Maggie and Kate in the house.
Got it.
Maggie was 14 and Kate was 11. So this happens, the whole thing starts on March 4th. Pi Day. So we're off to a good start.
That's March 14th.
Oh, shit, you're right. Damn. Well, I got nothing.
And that's our favorite holiday, and you forgot.
How dare
Wow.
I actually am very embarrassed. I did know it was. No one's going to believe me. Whatever. Okay. So on Not Pi Day, which happens 364 times a year.
It's the first day of Advent of Pi Day. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's the season of Pi Day.
In my head, I heard this like the Rent song "Season of Love," but season.
Oh no! You know what happens when we sing? Technology breaks down.
And then like 525,000 different flavors. Okay, another time. Okay,
another time.
Okay, so the Foxes were living currently in a smaller cottage, and they were waiting for their house to be built. And while they were kind of in transition between these homes, I'm pretty sure this ended up happening in both homes, but it started in the cottage. They started hearing these knockings, or as they were referred to back then as rappings. But I wanted to make sure I said knockings first so people didn't think these little preteen girls are like trying to sing like bottoms up, you know?
That's what I think is happening. I don't care what you say. That's exactly what's going on here.
I mean, in today's world, they're all singing WAP. And so, like, you know, maybe they...
I like that, just like Facebook, your first thought is bottoms up.
Well,
You're like, these are my
Trey songs. I thought Trey
reference points. I know. I saw somebody post online that Trey Songz had a super shredder event.
He certainly did.
Like the real Trey Songz.
Yeah, actually, okay, not my upstairs noisy neighbors, but their upstairs noisy neighbor Trey Songz.
Neighbor, right.
Yeah, he apparently threw a party of like 500 people after he had already been positive for COVID a couple months ago.
Oh, great.
So, wow, Cal Surprise, he's pretty inconsiderate. That's all I'm going to say.
It's just all this rapping around you hear in your apartment.
It's just rapping and knocking and getting COVID. So they were hearing all these rappings, which I hear all the time from Trey Songz also. So
it also sounds like Jeff the Mongoose starting here.
Bingo. And I think Jeff the Mongoose was it right around the same time?
Oh, I certainly don't know.
Give or take 50 years, I'm sure I'm correct.
Just like a century in one direction.
Half a century. I could be right. I'm probably still fucking not, which is the most embarrassing part. So their father was like, okay, what is going on? Where are all these knockings coming from? So he's looking around. He doesn't know where they're coming from. And they just kind of ignore it because they're like, well, I don't know what that is, but you know, here we are. It's just knocking. And it started getting really wild and really loud, and it started actually responding to them. They noticed that...
Oh, boy.
Like, they noticed that they were able to say, like, well, why don't you knock? If you're going to knock that many times, knock this many times, and then it would actually do it. So I guess the parents were super Christians, and they were like, oh, the devil has arrived.
I mean, that's also us, too. Like, oh, we hear strange noise. It's definitely Satan himself.
The devil has arrived is what I tell Eva when you land in LA.
Shut up, you big butthead.
And so they thought, okay, so Christine's here. But their 11-year-old Kate apparently like thought it was also the devil and decided to try to communicate immediately with
of course.
Again, this kind of sounds a little bit like little you of like,
yes.
Oh, you said that's a demon? Well, in that case, we ought to really get to know each other.
Thank God I keep a Ouija board under my bed, Mom. That since you threw away the last one. Yep.
I feel like you've got one of those like old flasher jackets where like they like people would like sell you
trench coat.
Yeah, trench where they would like sell you watches on the street, but you only have different like Ouija planchettes, you know?
And they're all mine. I just want to show them off. I'm like, you can't buy them.
You tuck it away fast. Like, no, these aren't for sale.
These are for sale.
I just want you to.
I'm just bragging.
It is flashing. Technically, you're just like flashing your planchettes and then hiding them again. So And we know that Kate thought this was the devil because she was calling this source or this spirit or this whatever, was calling it Mr. Splitfoot, which apparently back then was a term for the devil because like cloven hooves.
Ooh!
So Kate was saying, Mr. Splitfoot, do as I do, and then would like knock 3 times, and then there would be 3 knocks. So, and things like that started happening pretty often. This is where I had a little tangent, but I'm proud of it. They started testing out different patterns and speeds, and so they were just seeing how far they could go with it, and it was almost like a Simon Says, according to a few sources. And then that made me want to deep dive Simon Says. So here's what we have on Simon Says. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, according to worldhistories.net, the earliest reference to Simon Says is in 1842, which is literally 6 years before this story happened. So that's interesting. It really could just be a totally a coincidence. But so it was in a column in a Boston magazine, and the article was called All Sorts of Paragraphs, which I really... appreciate the acceptance of like, even I don't know what I'm going to fucking write.
This is like M's term paper. Here. This is my title. All sorts of paragraphs.
All sorts of, who's to say what's in it, but you know what you know what to expect at this point. So, in the article called All Sorts of Paragraphs, they were talking about, I guess, someone named Simon. And this was the description for Simon. Simon is a great talker. Sometimes he says up, sometimes he says down, and sometimes he says wiggle waggle. It's always cheapest to do as Simon says.
What the fuck? This is all sorts of paragraphs.
This is all sorts of words.
All sorts of nonsense.
All sorts of sanity. Like, I don't know. Apparently that's the earliest reference, and I guess that's where it might have stemmed from. But then it definitely at least happened around that time, because only a few years later there was an article of, actually, I guess Simon Says the game itself hasn't officially been mentioned yet, but this article must have gotten some like viral attention because of a few articles, or a few years later, there was another newspaper that was talking about a person named Simon, and they had to like specifically indicate in their newspaper, they said, Simon, not of Wiggle Waggle fame. Like, apparently,
my mistake.
So like, apparently this wigglin' wagglin' Simon has like gained quite a fan base and
some notoriety.
And this newspaper, by the way, was in Oregon, so literally on the other side of the country.
What
it had
is
to be
going
like,
on?
It's not the same guy. Like, was there only 2 Simons
I'm
at
crying.
the time?
This is so wild.
It's like, which one is it? The Wiggle Waggle or the
or like the one in the Bible?
Or the one in Oregon?
Oh my god.
Anyway, that was my little my shallow dive, if you will, on Simon Says.
Wiggle waggle.
My wiggling waggling fingers on the keyboard found all that about Simon Says.
Oh my god.
So so we're back to Kate is like doing all these tests to see how much she can get out of this knocking spirit. Mm-hmm. And Maggie saw that it was responding intelligently to Kate, so Maggie asked the spirit to rap or knock out the ages of each of the kids.
Ooh.
And the spirit actually did it successfully, including a 7th child that passed away when he was 3.
Oh no.
So that's odd.
That is.
So they decided that they were going to do kind of what any paranormal investigator would do now, where like you kind of set boundaries for yourself when like there's like equipment and you're trying to use it to communicate, like, you know, this means yes, this means no. So they said 1 knock for no and 2 knocks for yes. And the first questions that they asked were, are you a spirit? Were you killed in this house? And is the person who killed you still living? And all of those responses got yes, or all those questions got yes to them.
Ooh.
So through this, the family, I guess over time, figured out that this was a 31-year-old man who had died in the house. Which I can't imagine if you're like, how old are you? And you had to count 31 knocks.
Okay, that's a good point. Can you imagine if they're like, wait, was that 32 or 31? And he's like, not again.
I feel like I'm 1 knock. I'm over it. I can't.
I'm a baby. Don't worry about it.
So apparently this is happening for the entire month.
Super.
And now we're at the last day of March. We're at March 31st. And the mom was apparently so freaked out at this point because the knocking just wasn't ending. It was clearly intelligent at this point. The mom had one of the older kids come over, her son David, and he was like being kind of like, I guess, snobby about it. Or he was like, I guess he didn't believe it. And so he was acting kind of condescending. And he basically told her, like, well, whatever you do, don't tell the neighbors. Because like when you find out what it actually is and it's something really simple, you're gonna feel really stupid. And then he just left.
I see. You're gonna embarrass yourself.
Well, apparently Maggie overheard that and was like, okay, fuck you, and immediately went and told all the neighbors. And then
okay.
And then invited all of them over for their own opinion.
Love it.
And so all these skeptical neighbors came over. They all huddled into the family bedroom, and the sisters were there and the mom was also there. So I think it was the mom who said, count to 5. That was like the first real command during this little session. And the room banged out five knocks. And they were really, really heavy thuds that freaked them out for a second. But I'm sure they were like, okay, someone's, being kind of foolish, or, this could be anything. And I guess with enough demands like that and realizing everyone was in the house and no one else could have been doing it, the neighbors started to believe it themselves. So they ended up, I guess one of the neighbors also chimed in and said, like, well, what's my age? And it got the answer right. One of the questions was, if you're an injured spirit, manifest it by 3 raps. And then there were 3 knocks. According to the Paris Review, one neighbor named William Dusler, which I can imagine quickly turned into Douchler in high school. He tried talking to the spirit, and he basically... his technique, which like makes sense but like sounds wildly inconvenient, was like A equals 1, B equals 2, all the way to Z equals 26. So like if this guy wanted to like catch some Z's, that'd be like 80 knocks in a row, and you're not gonna be able to successfully count all of those. I promise you.
How irritating. Yes. Not the most efficient, I would imagine.
Can you imagine, like, what's your favorite animal? And he wanted to say zebra, and it's like 100 knocks. It's like, okay, I don't know anymore.
I don't care anymore, actually, about your favorite animal.
What's the
It's an aardvark.
So this William Dusler guy said, let's do it that way, and we can ask you more questions that way. I have to imagine this session then lasted about 10 hours of everyone counting knocks together. And through this, they learned that the spirit was named Charles B. Rosna.
Okay.
And he was a peddler that apparently was robbed of $500 and then killed in the bedroom they were standing in. And he had been killed 5 years ago by the then resident John Bell. Uh-oh. So, like, sounds like he's really trying to... It sounds like one of those situations where, remember, we both covered it at different times, I think. We both mentioned it, where, like, there was that ghost who, like...
Yes, the Ouija board.
Like, successfully helped confirm a murder, or, like, there's, like... It was the only paranormal testimony that was taken seriously.
They, like, admitted it in court. Like, they admitted it as testimony in court, a Ouija board session.
Yeah.
Where it, like, called out the murderer. Yeah.
If I mysteriously die, I swear to God, if there is not a legal testimony documenting my court case via Ouija board, I will be so pissed.
You're going to be knocking, and I'm just going to be like, God, that's annoying. I don't know what that is. And you're going to be like, it's me.
Be like, can you chill? Can you, like, go towards the light or something? Because I have a migraine. Do you know what makes this time of year truly wonderful?
Is it holiday music? Because that's all I blast through my whole house nowadays.
Oh, it's the holiday music, which, by the way, is year-round in my house. So
yeah, it started a long time ago, if I'm being fully honest.
Finally, like, people are on board, and I'm not looking alone here.
Exactly. And so I use Amazon Music. I'm sure, you do too.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't tried before, it's great. I put on basically like holiday playlists, and like when I was decorating, it gets me to do things like
clean,
decorate or clean. Mm-hmm. And it's actually like really, really handy because I have, and I don't want to say the word Alexa, oops, in every, like all around my house. So anywhere I'm cleaning or whatever, I'm just like, good. The music could go anywhere through the house.
Truly.
I love it, honestly.
No matter where you go, the music follows. If you haven't tried Amazon Music before, for a limited time, you can get your first 3 months of Amazon Music unlimited for free. And that's access to more than 70 million songs on demand and ad free. And you can play the songs you want, when you want, free for 3 months.
You can play Mariah on repeat into 2021 if you feel like you need it, which I think I do.
Oh, yeah.
If you just want to stream free, Amazon Music's got you covered. You can download the app to get access to millions of podcast episodes at no charge, plus thousands of music stations and top playlists, really anything to get your mind off, the rest of the world.
Yes. Listen at home or wherever you are. Your holidays will be merrier with fun, festive tunes. And remember, for a limited time, new subscribers can get 3 months of Amazon Music unlimited for free.
Go to amazon.com/whywedrink. That's amazon.com/whywedrink to get your first 3 months of Amazon Music free. Starts at $7.99 per month after new subscribers only. Terms apply. Offer expires January 11th, 2021.
Through that same technique, they also found out that Charles was murdered, fun fact, on a Tuesday at midnight. And that he was buried in the basement.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh. So John Fox and the neighbors went down to inspect the cellar for remains, and they ended up finding strands of hair, bones, and some even say they've also found teeth, but apparently they were unidentifiable. Yeah, it's 1848. I can't imagine you had the forensics abilities of today. No. But so apparently they found body remains down there.
No.
So that was the real, the kicker for the neighbors to believe it. And they started spreading this information like crazy. And it kind of just got, I don't know, I guess the news went a little wildfire. And the spirit started getting chattier because more people wanted to stop by and see the spirit. So basically, the spirit is now telling the family that not only could it hear them and respond to them, but it has been able to see them the whole time. And they're now testing this by holding fingers up. How many fingers am I holding up? So as the story became more widespread, the spirit also seemed to very quickly become more closed off to responding to other people. It was now, the phrasing that they used was something along the lines of it was attaching to the girls. But I think what was happening, if this was fake, is that they just were getting really nervous that they were going to get caught in something. And so
in too deep a little bit.
And so now the spirit is telling everyone oh, I only work through the preteens.
Yeah, you know how it is.
And so if anyone wants to ask questions, if they came to visit and wanted to ask a question, they could, but it had to be through Maggie or Kate.
Okay.
Yeah. So the spirit would suspiciously only be responsive with the sisters. And within a few weeks, the Fox house was swarmed with people visiting for a chance to witness the spirit themselves, which I wonder why they kept calling it a spirit if they knew his name was Charles.
Yeah.
So I think what was happening was now the story has also developed into, they can talk to many spirits who will all communicate this way. So visitors were really swarming the town. It was getting really bad, and the Fox family had to move in the middle of the night. Because so many people were trying to break down their house to get in and
what?
Talk to have these children tell them if their ancestors were around. No. Which I can't imagine. Imagine how terrifying that would be as an 11-year-old, and people are tell me about my dead, so and so. So they ended up having to move. They moved to their son/brother David's spearmint farm, which is precious.
Oh, goodness.
When I think spearmint farm, I think instead of fields of corn, I think of fields of green Trident gum.
Yes.
I don't know how to think of it in any other way. It's definitely not actual spearmint.
Did you know I have spearmint in my new garden?
No. And does it look like Trident?
A little bit. No. I tasted it. It tastes like Like I tasted it, I was like, oh, this is spearmint, which is like such a random thought.
Weird.
But it's not even just mint, it's like spearmint, which is really specific. But yeah, it tastes just like it.
You should grow peppermint next to it and then tell me if you can taste the difference.
Well, I have regular mint. I don't know how much of that is pepper. I don't know what the difference is between.
I know peppermint is blue trident.
Oh, I see. Well, what flavor is the zebra stripes? Because that's the one that I love.
Fruity stripes.
Yeah. How do I would like to grow that as well.
I think you just like squeeze a lot of juices into gum. I'm not sure how gum's made.
Well,
but
clearly
you
we
also
don't
have
know.
to like have a little blue zebra tattoo on it. So it sounds like you add zebra to the fruit smoothie and gum.
Those were so fun and gross.
They were very delicious, and to this day, if I see fruity stripes, I will buy it. But wow, the flavor goes out in 3, 2, 1. Like it's
it's like you're eating one bite of something and then you have just like silly putty in your mouth or something.
Exactly. It's you basically eat the entire package because like you're just trying to feel something.
If you're a youth out there, it was this gum with zebra on it and it was super strong tasting, but then it would like evaporate in a second. But the wrappers had these like pictures and you would like.
It was like fruit roll-ups with like the blue tattoos that you could put on your tongue.
And you would like put it on your tongue and it would like have ink and oh my God, it's so gross. It was so fun.
It was the first of its kind. In the 90s, I think it was the first ever like I
think it was the first and only of any kind ever.
You can take out the gum, but first on the wrapper, you can put your tongue on it and have a zebra tattoo. And also like I'm sure that was not FDA approved.
No, certainly not. But
I think it was pen ink.
I was actually like scared to say it because I was like, what if that was just me? And Em's like, you did what with you put it in your mouth?
No, it was a tattoo.
But wait, did you just put it on your tongue? Because I would put it on my arm.
Oh, I always only put it on my tongue. It didn't even cross my mind I could put it somewhere else. I just thought
it never worked, so maybe I was just smearing it all over my arm.
You really could have gotten the exact same effect with like one of those like extra wide like blue Crayola markers. You could
I'm sure I did too.
Just smear it all over your body. I honestly don't know if it was even supposed to be a tattoo or if it was just really cheap ink and I thought it served a purpose.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't just me. I felt like really embarrassed for a minute there.
No, Fruity Stripes I had 3 gums that I chewed when I was a child. It was the entire pack of Fruity Stripes. It was Strawberry Bubblicious, which to this day makes my mouth literally salivate. Like I need to swallow. And and then the Sour Apple Bubble Tape.
I love that shit.
Yeah. And during Halloween, it glowed in the dark. Anyway. We could talk about gum for a while, apparently. We did,
and we do.
I didn't know that was possible, but learning new things every day. So they moved to their brother's spearmint farm. That's how this happened.
Oh, oops.
It's like the Willy Wonka of gum. Okay. So David, actually, while they were all there, researched this John Bell guy who allegedly killed the spirit they're talking to. And he did check out. There was a guy named John Bell that used to live in their house 5 years before they moved in. So that didn't seem good. And visitors also, at this point, have heard the rumors that they moved to the spearmint farm. So now they're also, like, taking over the spearmint farm.
No.
And David basically started talking to neighbors. I don't really know what their plan was, if all of them were just going to uproot or something, but before they left, he wanted to get down to the bottom of this John Bell stuff. And he was trying to talk to neighbors who did say that they remember seeing a peddler coming into town who they did not recognize. I guess at the time they knew all of the peddlers in town. But there was one person they couldn't recognize who did stay at the Bell house the one night they were in town. And they remember hearing a fight at John Bell's house, and then the next day, never seeing the peddler again, but John Bell was wearing his clothes.
What? Okay.
So it sounds fishy.
Yes, it does.
Only 12 days after, by the way, like everything I've been saying happened within like a 12-day span of like the neighbors heard about it, and now the entire town is covered with tourists trying to learn about this. So in that 12-day time period, that was also when people were starting to make like tourist pamphlets about the two sisters, about Maggie and Kate Fox. And so this pamphlet was starting to get spread to different areas. And one of the wider regions it got to happened to be where their sister lived, Leah. And so at the time, there wasn't telephones. So like she had no idea this was going on with her family. She found out through a fucking pamphlet. She was like, my sisters can what?
Oh, no.
And so I guess she had a daughter named Lizzie. And I don't know if this is important later, but apparently her husband left her and left her with no money, but left her with Lizzie. So just to remember that for like the end of this. But it was apparently, I guess she saw this pamphlet, immediately went home and brought Lizzie with her just to make sure that everyone was okay. And when Leah got home, she saw that they were being swarmed. Like she saw that like this was kind of, I guess, the version of like a fandom in the 1840s. Right. And so this is the first little plot twist, which I never knew about. She saw this for herself because she was like, I did not know they could do this. I didn't know that this started up in the house. She found out that like apparently these knockings were legitimate and like she couldn't figure it out. And people were going goo goo gaga for it. And she, a la Kris Jenner, became their momager, or I guess their sisager.
Oh my God.
She saw dollar signs and
yes, she did.
Went, I'm gonna rock the nation with this.
She's a single mama and she is resourceful.
Exactly. She was like, I know exactly what I'm gonna do.
Step aside.
Even if I know nothing about it at all yet.
I love it.
So she wanted to bring the girls back with her. I think she lived in Rochester. I think her home was in Rochester. And she wanted to bring the girls, but Kate was too young and had to go to school still. Apparently at 14, you didn't have to do that anymore. So Maggie was allowed to go. And so I don't know if did you watch the Hamilton movie?
Yes.
Okay, so you know how there's like that one song where they're like, Angelica, Eliza, and then there's like that random third sister who goes, and Peggy.
Yes.
Okay, so I very much feel like Kate has become the Peggy here because
poor Kate.
It was like the Maggie and Kate show, and then Leah was like, my turn, and also Kate, you have to go to school and you're not involved anymore. And Leah like pushed her out. So it's the Fox sisters. It's 3 of them, but Kate is like no longer part of the story for a little bit.
She's in arithmetic class.
She's too busy with her social studies.
Oh.
So even though Maggie and Kate are separated, Kate goes back with Leah and Leah's daughter, and the knockings are still happening. All the spooky stuff is still happening, even though the sisters are separated. But then again, Leah realizes very quickly that she got herself into some hot water because not only are there knockings, but strange things are starting to happen, which like you signed up for. Like there were, you thought your sister was haunted and you wanted to bring her back with you. And now you're complaining that the place is haunted. Like what is going on? So, I guess, Leah's daughter started waking up to icy hands on her. And she saw a Bible get thrown across the room. And Leah also said that she was getting touched. They also started hearing the sounds of construction. But what I find interesting is they would specifically define it as the sound of someone building a coffin, which, like, that's a very specific thing to know.
How would you know
It's just cutting wood and nailing. Like, wait, how do you know it's a coffin? But they described it as like, we hear the sounds of a coffin being made all the time. And it's like, maybe I don't know how to build a coffin. Maybe there's a specific piece of equipment that only gets used for coffins. But apparently they just knew that was what was going on.
Maybe back then there were more things being built and you just had like an ear for it, but that seems very specific.
It's like when you're blindfolded, but you know like exactly which left and right directions to take you to like your favorite restaurant.
I mean, I don't, since I have no concept of direction, but yeah, I can imagine that's what it would be like.
I wish one time in high school, me and my friends, we all tried to surprise our friend, take them to Red Robin. And by the time we got in the parking lot, they were like, oh, we're at Red Robin. Like while they were like hardcore blindfolded, like,
oh, I see. You were
like, while half their face, I was like, how did you know how we got here? So people just, I guess you're right, have like a weird knack for certain things, and like to be able to know, oh, you cut for this long and then nail it this many times. Obviously that's a coffin that's being made.
Oh my God.
So I'm guessing that's what it was, or they're just being dramatic, which could also very much be it.
Also, it could be both. Yeah.
So apparently Lizzie, the daughter of Leah, just hated this entire arrangement, was like, why did we even have to invite this fucking person into our house? Like, why is there knocking all the time now? Why do I have to feel like icy hands, see Bibles getting thrown? Like I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
And the neighbors are also complaining about the knocking. So Maggie is just like causing all sorts of problems. And Leah decides, okay, well, we're just going to move to a bigger house because now they can afford it because she's starting to exploit her sister's talents.
Beautiful.
So they moved to a bigger house in Rochester, and there are two people who, amongst everybody else who wants to meet Maggie, they really want to meet Maggie. Their names are Isaac and Amy. They're a married couple. They're former Quakers in the area, and they invite Maggie to their house for a personal session.
Ooh.
And Isaac said he was originally as skeptical as Doubting Thomas until very distinct thumps started from under their floor, and there's no way that Maggie could have done them. I guess here's a twist. So Isaac and Amy also started believing that not only was Maggie gifted, but they also were convinced that Leah was gifted. Because Leah was now all of a sudden showing mediumistic powers.
Kate who?
And Peggy. Because now she was also starting to be able to communicate with Isaac and Amy's deceased daughter. Which
this always gets real.
Talk
not
about
good.
pulling on the heartstrings.
Talk about shady behavior.
So now
Shady
this is something Harry Houdini would be exactly against.
Yes.
So now Leah and Maggie both have the ability to communicate with spirits, and they would have impromptu seances. They would not accept money, but they would accept extravagant gifts.
Oh my God, really?
Which is what I say on my birthday when people are like, what do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. But like, if it happens to be luxurious, I'll take it.
A pony, yeah.
A pony for my pony, okay?
Really? Because I'm like, you can give me cash if you want instead of a pony.
You know what I thought would be the perfect gift, which like, there's no way you can kindly ask for this. It's like, if I could really have gotten anything for Christmas, I would have wanted people to just reimburse me for all the shit I bought them. Like, I would just...
Oh, that's nice. Buy it yourself.
Yeah, like
buy your own gift.
Like so one of my stepbrothers, he always gives me, always gives me a $25 Amazon gift card. I know it's coming. I'm going to thank him and I'm going to act shocked. But... So I always know for Christmas to get him something that's exactly $25. So
exactly.
I end up spending $0. But I wish I could text him and be like, look, we both know what's about to happen. Like, let's just not even try, you know?
Oh, I see. Just buy something off Amazon, put my name on it.
Yeah. It's like,
you're welcome.
You're going to give me $25 of stuff. I'm going to give you $25 of stuff. Let's just not even do that.
I like that we're saying this, even though you and I, like, all we care about is like giving each other gifts because it's just fun.
So there's a difference between the gifts I give you and the gifts I give like family that I don't talk to.
Yeah, I get it. That's true.
Like when I have to sit down and like really like think about what I should get you because I don't know you well enough, I'm like, why am I wasting the time when I could just give you cash to do it yourself?
When the other person's doing the same thing to you and you're like, yeah, I get it.
With you, it's fun. Like with Allison, it's fun because it's like I'm doing something that's really sentimental and there's emotional value and like time and effort that went into it and there's like a creativity aspect. But when it's like I'm trying to find something on Amazon that you won't totally hate so I can get a thank you text.
Like socially you have to. Yeah.
Then it's like
and that's like, listen, let's talk about consumerism. Okay, let's not. But
oh my yes.
That's a podcast for another day and another person. That's not me. But you let me just say, this is a bad look for the planet.
Anyway,
that's my take.
I was thinking the whole time because I spent like X amount of dollars, which I will not say the number, but let's just say
$6,000.
Not 6,000, but not 6 either.
Okay.
You know, I was complaining to Allison about this. I had a mini meltdown because I was like, if my parents just decided to like not have fucking scandals in their relationship and they were just happily married, me as an only child would have 2 Christmas responsibilities. Mom, dad. I don't even have fucking siblings. Like I'm in the clear. I have to buy 2 people things. Awesome.
I know.
But because they decided to be fucking messy, I have to literally buy things for 30 family members.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't want to do that. So if I can
and then I'm like, oh, so like my dad's seeing somebody and I'm like, so I need to, like, I would like to get her a gift, but I'm like, how nice of a, like, is she gonna get me a gift?
Right.
Like, this is so weird. I don't know. Am I even gonna see her?
Well, now I've got my mom, I've got my stepdad, I've got 4 step siblings, I've got my dad, I've got my stepmom, I've got my 2 step siblings, I've got one of those step siblings has a boyfriend with 2 kids. And then
for God's
and then
sake.
now I'm dating someone who's a family, also in her own family of 6, and I want to get them things. So like it adds up so quick. And I'm like, why did this? I don't want to spend any money. Can my present be that I don't have to get you a present? Can that just be it? Anyway, I'm off my soapbox now.
Anyway, we're never off our soapbox, but we'll sit on the soapbox for now.
Anyway, it
sounded
sounded a little bit like a bummer and like me screaming at you about my own selfish needs. But guess what? I'm a Gemini and this is my podcast. So anyway.
And we're also in a tornado, so leave us alone.
And like a bunch of cows keep running into me. Okay. I feel like I'm not alone in that. I think other people will, agree with me on that.
I think we all get it, especially this year.
So especially this year, because now extra shipping costs. Me, oh my. Okay.
Well, and extra negative dollars. Yeah.
So now Leah and Maggie are like the dynamic duo. And because Lizzie isn't having any of this, and she like already has made it very clear she doesn't want any of this spooky stuff happening around her, she's sitting in on their seances that they're doing for people and, getting gifts from. And Lizzie's like heckling them during their own seances, like her own mom and aunt, and is like, this isn't real. And then guess what Leah does? Sends her away. Sends her own kid away. And now it's just Leah and Maggie, the Fox sisters, raking in the cash.
This is getting dark.
So Leah started claiming that the spirits also were helping her creatively, where they were giving her ideas for music because she was an avid piano player.
Okay.
And so the spirits would apparently use the same spelling technique of like A = 1, B = 2, but they would do it for like piano notes.
It would be like heart and soul. Just like the same key.
You would hear like do 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 tequila. And so they were basically spelling out different keys that apparently she should do on the piano, and that was how she was writing her music, which is very.
Okay.
Now she's like Kris Jenner, but now she's also a little Sarah Winchester because that's how she was getting design ideas.
Yeah.
So I would argue that if I had to describe at least one of the Fox sisters, one of them is obviously Peggy Schuyler. The other is Kris Jenner meets Sarah Winchester, but make it musical.
Wow, what a story, though.
What an aesthetic.
Aesthetic.
So skeptics started weighing in on the seances. And first of all, they were like, why do the lights have to be so dim? Like, it was kind of sketchy. And Leah, by the way, said that the lights had to be dark because the spirits, they liked the dark and the light would drain their energy.
Okay, sure.
Soon the spirits announced that they would no longer interact with Maggie and Leah without a real audience. So now they're like...
Oh my gosh.
So now these spirits have a writer, apparently.
Yes.
And so they have all these high demands. One of them specifically is that they need a public exhibition.
Oh my God.
And the town heard these demands, and Rochester offered Corinthian Hall, aka the largest venue in Rochester, and the Fox sisters started performing on stage live shows.
Stop. You're right. This is us.
This
but
is a little too weird.
A little too weird, except I can't play piano very well, so it's the one thing missing.
You're my maestro or whatever I said.
Oh yeah, your maestro?
Maestro. No one else knows what we're talking about, but I tried to call you my maestro when you played the piano one time and I spelled it wrong. And it just I looked really stupid.
And I was like, what's a maestro? And I was just an asshole about it, so I apologize.
No, it's whatever my maestro wants, my maestro gets. Okay, so on opening night, just so you know, Kate was too young to be on stage, so she wasn't even like really invited to join the new Fox sisters, even though she was one of the original Fox sisters.
Kate.
And Leah and Maggie did the show without her. So Leah has really ripped the crown right off of Kate's head.
Seriously.
And 500 people came opening night, and they made the equivalents to what is today $8,000 in that one night.
Okay. Oh boy, big bucks.
The audience was in awe, but many of them were skeptics. Apparently everyone in town, including religious zealots, people who were scared, people started freaking out. And so they were calling them a fraud, but sometimes it was just out of being afraid. And so during their live shows, it became commonplace that there were fraud search committees done either during or after the shows. So like they were these, at least one was a child and the other was Leah. And these audiences would request wild demands to like test that they were being legitimate. So like they would tie their ankles or like lie them on the ground in pillows to make sure the like sound was still coming from somewhere, and like they couldn't do their tricks basically.
Oh my God.
A lot of people thought like, oh, one of them's cracking their knuckles, one of them is coughing, one of them is stomping their feet. And so they were trying all these little experiments live while also just trying to give you a show, which like, I understand people were freaked out, but can you imagine if every single time we did a live show, people were like, now you have to bind your ankles and be upside down. And I'd be like,
stop cracking your knuckles.
Just don't come to the show. Like,
yeah, I was just thinking, all the religious zealots that come to our live shows would for sure.
They're always in the front row, aren't they?
They are.
So there was a few times where they had to literally like stand on glasses to make sure that they weren't channeling electricity, because that was someone's theory.
My.
There was one time where or I guess it became a few times, where they had their feet covered with pillows, and then they were standing on cushions so that their feet couldn't be moved. And if they were making sounds with their feet, it would be muffled. And interestingly, whenever that was the experiment they did, that no spirits showed up that night. But Leah would make a public statement later and say, oh, well, everyone was just in such a negative mood that it wasn't harmonious enough for the spirits to want to interact. So you were doing it. You ruined the energy in the room.
Yeah, okay.
And at the same time, there was one guy named Andrew Jackson Davis. He later became known as John the Baptist of Spiritualism.
Okay.
Yikes. He heard of the Fox sisters, and he thought that he had like predicted them like they were a prophecy.
What?
He had published this book where he basically said, and I'm absolutely paraphrasing from his quote because the quote sounds kind of like very flowery and it was hard to get through. But basically he was saying that, we as human beings we are spirits that are inhabiting a body right now. And those spirits have the ability to communicate with spirits in the actual spiritual world right now. So like some are inhabiting bodies on Earth, some are up in the sky or whatever in some other dimension. And all of them have the ability to still communicate no matter what phase they're going through. And even though it's possible, it's currently very difficult. But one day there will be this day where this bridge in communication shows up, and all the world will be at peace, and because now all of a sudden all the spirits can communicate with each other. And
thank God that finally happened.
Well, he says that he wrote that down, and then he thinks that day happened the first time that the Fox sisters heard knocking in their house.
Okay.
And what's interesting about that is the same day that the Fox sisters started hearing things in their house, he has a diary entry where apparently he wrote this. About daylight this morning, a warm breathing passed over my face, and I heard a voice tender and strong saying, "Brother, the good work has begun. Behold, a living demonstration is born."
Ooh.
Which, like, okay, that's a little ooky. Like, what?
That is.
So when he heard that the girls were in Rochester, he was like, holy shit, I got to meet them. So he invited them to his house right away. By the time he finally met them, though, Leah's talents had now grown even wider and further than Maggie's ever did. And she could now identify, through knocking, spirits' dialects. And she could also now translate other languages into English.
Oh my God.
So this Andrew Jackson Davis guy, he offered to help however he could, because first of all, he thought that he was a prophet. And he also thought that, he could be seen because it was still so early in their story of the Fox sisters that he could make a name for himself as one of the founders of spiritualism. And so he wanted to really get in there and do whatever he needed to. So Maggie, Leah, and Andrew Jackson Davis, they all decided that they were going to go on a literal nationwide tour instead of just staying at this one location, the Corinthian.
Why not?
So instead of having a home venue, they're now touring.
Oh my God.
So people came from all over. Apparently Scientific American wrote a very not so pleasant article about them because it's Scientific American. And they were like, this does not scientifically make sense. One audience member was a famous opera singer in Sweden. And apparently she was convinced that they were legit because she saw Leah translate Swedish to her or something. And so because she was famous in Sweden, they now had famous European celebrity backing.
Okay.
So the news about the Fox sisters is now traveling to Europe. So they're getting like wide acclaim.
Oh yeah.
Before they left to go on their official tour, they finished off their New York season. I don't know, their time in New York. By conducting sessions in a New York hotel, and they would do it 3 times a day for up to 30 attendees at a time. So that was 90 people. And they would do it for, I guess, like the ticket admission was $1, which in today's world is $33. So
oh, wow.
33 times 90 people a day.
Jeez.
You know? And these people weren't just like anyone. Like, it was like you had to really fight to get a ticket. They were sensational. So a lot of their clients or their audience members happen to be really famous people now. One of them was P.T. Barnum. There was also the poet William Cullen Bryant, and then the editor for the New York Tribune, Horace Greeley, who actually like really like had a liking to them and even offered them like housing in his mansion. He offered them free education. And then Leah told them that they couldn't take the education because they had to go on tour and they couldn't quit like the family business.
Oh my God. Yeah, but Kate can do it. She's still in school apparently for the rest of her life.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Well, Kate, I think she was like, I already got you out of this picture. So nice try, Kate. Apparently another one was William Lloyd Garrison, who he witnessed, this is a quote, he, quote, witnessed a session in which the spirits rapped in time to a popular song and spelled out a message. And the message was, spiritualism will work miracles in the cause of reform. So now they're like, basically, this tour is also becoming like a PR campaign for spiritualism, because now people are getting these wild messages from beyond the grave about how great spiritualism is. And also they like they're relevant too because they know all the popular songs. So because they're like now rapping to like music.
Now they're rapping actually to Bottoms Up.
Right. Yeah. They're Bottoms Up, and also apparently one of the most popular songs that came out that year was like Oh Susanna. So like
oh my God, My Darling Clementine remixed with Bottoms Up would be quite a hit though.
That would
sensation.
be I don't even know how you could actually, you know what? I bet you could do it, because remember when the 2020 New Year's came and we had the New Year's Eve party, and I found that
you had The Great Gatsby like mixed with modern day.
They had there was a playlist where there was 20s versions of popular songs. It's like, I'm sure you could do like
I'm sure
1840s music to like today's music if you really wanted to. So anyway, that now it's, you know, people are hearing about spiritualism from the spirits themselves. So it's like quite a marketing plan. Around this time, Kate was now finally out of school and old enough to join them. And so they're getting the band back together. And so Kate, Leah, and Maggie are now a threesome, and they're known as the Fox sisters officially.
I see.
So Leah chose to stay in New York at this point, and so like Kate and Maggie could go on tour. And I don't know why Leah stepped away. I don't really know that part, but Kate and Maggie went on tour. So it was almost like the OG Fox sisters were on tour now, and they went to. I really feel like their booking agent happened to be Andrew Russell, because they
shout out Andrew.
They went to Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, St. Louis, DC, and Philly.
Oh my God, that is like our run, yeah.
So soon, though, very quickly, the reason there was only that many cities is because they were getting fucking harassed by so many skeptics. Again, zealots all across the country now who are coming to see them and judge them or call them blasphemous or say the devil is in them. One time Maggie even got kidnapped. I don't know more of that story, but I feel like I should.
I want to know more of that.
She survived. I guess that's the most important part. The sisters decided it was all not worth it anymore because it was too intense. So during their last show, they spelled out, quote, as if the spirits were doing this, they spelled out, we will now bid you farewell. And that was the last thing that they ever translated for people, and then they left the tour. 2 weeks later, though, Leah heard about this and heard that they like canceled their own tour and they were like out of the game.
I love that it takes 2 weeks for that news to reach
Like
her.
she needed another goddamn pamphlet or pigeon or something. So Leah heard that her sisters gave up, and she went to the public and made a statement saying, no, the show will go on. Like this, She was like, just because I left physically doesn't mean I'm not still their manager.
These ghosts can't decide to quit.
Apparently not. Damn.
No.
So Leah thought that they were too integral at this point in spiritualism because all of a sudden now it was a movement and people are really like starting to pick up on it.
Right. We're the center of this movement.
And she was basically like, you're the poster children for this. So like you can't back out or else it's going to look really bad for a lot of spiritualists.
Oh my God.
So Leah basically said, like, you can't just walk away. But soon spiritualism was booming. The Fox sisters weren't the only people with this gift all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. And they very quickly fell from fame. They were no longer relevant. Everyone all of a sudden was a medium. And so 200 years prior to this, though, like, let's not take away from the fact that they would have literally been burned at the stake, and now people are paying hundreds of dollars to see them. So like,
it's a good point.
Just wanted to mention that. So in 1850, which was right around this time, the New Haven Journal reported that 40 families in upstate New York claimed to have the same powers as the Fox sisters. And then only a year later in New York, there were over 100 people who made this claim. So like within a 24-month period, the Fox sisters went from being the only people who could speak to spirits to like being very small fish.
Oh my gosh.
Or very small foxes, I guess, at this point.
Fish.
So, fun fact, there was ample evidence this whole time, early on too, that the Fox sisters were frauds. One is that it was shocking how many famous people came forward. Specifically, Ben Franklin liked to talk to them a lot.
Okay.
But, like, I guess people noticed that Ben Franklin was a pretty shitty speller and, like, didn't know his grammar anymore. And one time a witness called them out and said, like, why can't Ben Franklin get it together? And Maggie apparently stormed out in the middle of a session, or Leah stormed out in the middle of a session and said, oh, well, I never understood grammar or something. So it implied that, like, she was the one doing it.
The smooth lady.
Also, you know, just as many famous ghosts would show as no ghosts at all, depending on their mood. So, like, if they weren't, like, feeling it that day, all of a sudden the spirits, like, couldn't show up, especially if their demands weren't being met. Leah was also allegedly known to try to get information out of witnesses before the shows started.
Like, how do you speak Swedish again?
Oh, what's your favorite sentence from, and that's in Swedish. Oh, okay. And as the three sisters grew older, this could be nothing at all, but a lot of people speculate. All three of them ended up having really severe drinking problems. And so a lot of people try to associate that with like the guilt of lying to the entire world. And at a few shows, like I said, cushions were placed between their feet and floor, and those shows always happen to be silent. Near the end of their seances, they started becoming more elaborate, like objects started moving, tables were levitating, you could see shadows and apparitions and shit. And a lot of people have argued like, oh, all of a sudden they had like competition and needed to up their ante. And so they were like probably learning new tricks just to stay relevant. But so this ends up being kind of badass. In 1885, I guess the first wave of spiritualism was dying down. So maybe they just had nothing left to lose, but Maggie was fucking over it. And she, I don't know how she did this or why this was the route she took, but it's very intentional. She booked the stage at the New York Academy of Music, and then she got on stage in front of everybody, took off her shoes, and cracked her feet knuckles.
Yep.
And
I knew it.
And it was identical to the sounds of the rappings that people had heard. And so once she had shown everyone exactly what was happening, this was what she said on stage. I have been cheaply instrumental in perpetuating the prod of spiritualism upon a too confiding public. The greatest sorrow in my life has been that this is true, and that though it has come late in my day, I am now prepared to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I am here tonight as one of the founders of spiritualism to denounce it as an absolute falsehood from beginning to end, as the flimsiest of superstitions and the most wicked of blasphemy known to the world.
Whoa.
So, like, really, like, hitting it out of the park on that one.
Did she spell that out with her feet knuckles?
She just tap danced everywhere. Her little toenails like click clacked. So Maggie also said, when we went to bed at night, we used to tie an apple to a string and move the string up and down, causing the apple to bump on the floor, or we would drop the apple on the floor, making a strange noise every time it would rebound. Mother listened to this for a time. She would not understand it and did not suspect us as being capable of a trick because we were so young. Some people actually think that all of this really started, like they just got in over their heads, and it was originally just supposed to be like a funny neighborhood April Fool's prank because it was March 31st.
Oh, that's right.
So people think like they were just trying to like play a joke on the neighbors, and it just
got out of hand.
So like within 12 days they had to leave their house because they were
talk about like a cautionary tale, man.
Don't you dare play with apples and strings. I tell you once, I'll tell you every time.
You know what happens to kids who play with apples.
So so allegedly, this is where I say Leah's husband left her with no money, and then she had this daughter. So a lot of people think that this is why Leah, like, all of a sudden became so hell-bent on, like, running the show because she saw a real potential for income when she needed it most.
Understandably, yeah.
And I mean, I can understand, like, if you're, like, a mom that you need to, like, raise this kid and you have no money, especially in the 1840s. It's not like you're going to get a job, you know? So, I think that's probably how this happened. And when she was visiting her sisters, they maybe confided in her, like, shh, don't tell mom and dad, but this is what we're doing. And she probably blackmailed them into letting her join.
Wow.
So spiritualists felt betrayed by Maggie, but many of them didn't feel betrayed. They were very defensive and said, like, oh, she's just, like, quote, a washed up drunk. And, like, she's just, like... she's not relevant anymore. She lost all of her money. She's just complaining and trying to make spiritualism look bad. But apparently one source said that Maggie later recanted, saying that she did it to spite Leah, but not many people believe that. They think that she was pretty darn serious when she booked a whole venue. She ended up marrying a very famous Arctic explorer named Alicia Kent Kane, but the family didn't approve because Maggie obviously looked a little Looney Tunes. And so they never legally wed. Kate continued in part-time mediumship, and eventually her son, Ferdinand, damn, I can't say that word, he also became a medium starting at the age of 3. So I don't...
Oh, that poor kid.
Sounds like he was influenced.
She's a stage mom and a half.
Toddlers and tiaras, am I right?
Oh, my God. Toddlers and...
ectoplasm.
Seances.
Toddlers and ectoplasm. Apparently, she knew when he was 3 that he had the gift because spirits would possess him and he would have an unearthly glow come out of his eyes. Yikes.
Oh, God.
No.
No.
Anyway, sad story becomes a worse story. Arguably all due in some way to their heavy drinking. They all died very early in life. Leah died in 1890, and she was the oldest. She died first. Maggie died 2 years later at only 59, and Kate died a year later at 56. This is a fun fact. The original table that the Fox sisters used on tour is now at the Rochester Historical Society.
Cool.
According to Alice Obscura, the table, as you can see in pictures, was custom built to make the rapping sounds. You just couldn't see it from off the stage. Quote, within the enclosed top of the table lies a spring connected to a long metal rod, and when pushed, the rod hits the inside of the table, creating the rapping sound. And as for the body remains, I'm thinking those were probably planted as part of the April Fool's joke. The ones that were found in the cellar when they first were talking to the ghost. And the Fox family's property, where this all started, is now Hydesville Memorial Park in Newark, New York. And apparently the park offers, like, you can see, like, I think, if I saw one picture, and I'm kind of going completely off that, but I think they still have the foundation of the house built into the ground. And they do a haunted history trail tour.
Love that.
So if anything, the Fox sisters, they did, if this was just all accidentally like an April Fool's joke, and they made spiritualism. They at least, if anything, set the standard for what types of communication to expect during paranormal interaction. Even today, I mean, you hear knocking all the time in spooky TV shows and things like that. It's usually the people's first go-to. If you're here, can you knock on something or bang on something? We still see knocking in spirit sessions and general evidence of hauntings today. And because of the Fox sisters, American Spiritualism is still credited to, at least to many people, to have begun on March 31st, which means that spiritualism is an Aries. So,
and it wouldn't be, or it would be, wouldn't it? She would be an Aries.
Spiritualism and my mother and your stepmother, right?
Yeah, Linda, Ellen, and spiritualism.
The original Fox
Toddlers
sisters.
And tiaras.
And that's
the original Fox
That's
sisters.
the Fox sisters. Wow, that was very long. I'm so sorry.
What a tale, though. I mean, I can do that with my feet.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Ugh.
You can't?
I don't think I've tried. I do have
Like this-
freakishly long toes, so I'm sure I could probably like do a little kraken if I wanted to. But
It's like a specific thing. I remember learning it when I was little because
is it not your toes?
Sort of. It's like you're going like, I don't know. I don't want to show you. I mean, I'll show you someday, not on camera, please. But
I'm aware that feet have like the most bones in any part of the human body, but in my mind, the foot is just one like oval shaped bone. And so when people are like, "Oh, I can crack it," I'm like, "You should not be able to. It should be like
no, it's
one
not
slate."
cracking it. It's like you hit it on the floor.
I still cannot do that.
Here, let me see if I can do it. Hold on. I don't
my
have
God.
like I'm on
and on today's episode, we have one of the Fox sisters performing her famous toe crackle.
Unfortunately, I'm on carpet, so it's not gonna work. Hang on.
I heard it. That was enough for me. Oh my God.
So if that was on carpet, if it's on wood, you can hear it.
Can you imagine though having to do that enough times to spell out that
No,
you're
that's
Charles
why I
B.
was like-
Rosna and
Yeah, that's why I was like, why didn't they name him Aardvark?
Can you imagine? How old are you, Charles? 31. Do that 31 times, Christine.
Okay. I would be like, again, like I'm an infant. I'm one. Don't worry about it. But yeah, I remember one of my, whatever, this semi-stepdad when I was growing up, we'd be in an elevator and he would do that. And people would be like, what is that knocking sound?
You could do it in your shoes?
Yes. And so that's what he would do. And I remember he was like, yeah, you can do that. And so then I learned to do it with my foot. Maybe I'm reincarnated as
I'm pretty sure you're one of the Fox sisters. You're definitely fucking Leah too. I can tell. No, I guess you're Maggie because she's the one who was doing all the foot cracking. But wow. So I mean, I know I'm wrong anatomically, but as someone who refuses to believe the foot is anything other than one long plate of bone,
that's so creepy to me that you're saying that.
The fact that I think it's just like cracking in half on the ground inside your shoes. It's all wrong, but I don't know what's better. I hate this. Let's move on.
It's all bad. I don't love feet, so it's not great.
I want a video later, not to be like, can you send me a video of your feet? But like,
but to totally be like, can you send me a video?
But like, can you send me a very close up version of? Because I need to see what the fuck happened. It sounds like you just broke your foot.
Like, it's so funny because you said that and I was like, wait a second, I used to be able to do that. And so the whole time you were talking, I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing it again. Anyway.
That's a skill I only want to see for science purposes and then never.
From far away.
And then completely forget. I want you to like clonk me in the head after I see the video you send me so I can forget it.
Oh my God. Oh boy, what a tale. Anyway, I have a tale for you and it's also twisty-turny. So it is the story of Phoebe Handsjuk. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name right. It's a Norwegian name, I believe, Handsjuk.
Okay, Handsjuk. Cool.
It takes place in Australia though. So this is a murder mystery.
Ooh, you know I love a good question mark.
Yes, it's a creepy one. And this is, I actually heard it for the first time ever on Crime Junkie a long time ago. Like, I don't know. Maybe sometime last year. And I had had it in my head and I was like, it's Phoebe something. And then I eventually was like, I need to learn more about this. So I went back and found the name. So credit to them for where I first heard it. And there is a podcast called Phoebe's Fall from 2016 that basically goes really in depth. It's like a 6-episode podcast series.
Wow.
So both of those are where like this intel comes from.
I always feel bad when there's a story that literally can span multiple hours of episodes, and like I want to do my best in my research, but there's just no way it's going to happen.
No, completely. It's like when I did the Zodiac, and I'm like, here's a 20-minute version of the Zodiac, and then it's like
luck.
I've listened to like 85 episodes of professionals talking about
at
this.
That point,
here's my version.
At that point, you might as well just do like, here's my 7-part episode of the Zodiac Killer.
Oh man! All right. So on Thursday, December 2nd, 2010. A concierge of a luxury high-rise apartment in Melbourne, Australia. Melbourne, named Beth. Was heading to the apartment building's garbage room to find a broom. So when she turned the key, she tried to open the door, but it got jammed. Like it was blocked by something. Uh-oh. So she peered in and saw what looked like a mannequin.
Good night. Okay. Okay. Okay.
I think it was on My Favorite Murder where they said it's never a mannequin. I think it was from MSM.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but it's a great quote.
Take out the part that says it can. It's a man. It's just a man.
Or a woman.
A woe mannequin.
Which in this case. So she thought it was a mannequin until she saw a large pool of blood. It was the body of 24-year-old Phoebe Handsjuk, who was a tenant at the Valencia Apartments, which is the building that they were in. So after the discovery of Phoebe's body and the arrival of police, it was pretty soon deduced that Phoebe had fallen 12 floors through the trash chute.
Holy fuck.
Into the garbage room. And this was 40 meters or 131 feet. So she had fallen 12 stories.
Wow.
Through the trash chute into the garbage room.
I'm shocked this is the first time I'm hearing a story 200 times now where it took someone to... Because I always thought, I guess not always, but in my head when I was little, I thought there was like a horror movie trope where people got thrown down chutes.
Like laundry chutes or like, It seemed, maybe we just invented it because it seemed like something terrifying because I had the same thought.
That was in the same part of my brain with like, oh, the zebra stripe gum is actually a tattoo.
I was about to say, then again, we were like trying to tattoo ourselves with trash. Yes. So like, who knows?
Literal trash.
Oh boy. So they figured out like she had fallen through this trash chute, and they found her body with bruising on her neck, wrist, and upper right arm. So that's important for later.
Okay.
And they had figured out that she had fallen alive, had cut her foot on the trash compactor speaking of feet, to the point that it was nearly severed. And then she bled out while crawling, looking for an exit.
Oh, see, like you always hope that like before they hit the trash chute, they died instant death. Like they,
yeah, I know.
But so the whole experience of mental torture was also involved. Got it.
Yes, exactly. So basically, it was a dark room, and they could basically figure out that after she had almost severed her foot, like she was trying to find an exit and bled out in about 5 to 10 minutes during that time. Yeah,
oh
it's
my God.
Fucking horrible. So they went to her apartment, obviously, upstairs, and in the apartment, they found broken glass on the floor and blood on the cushion and computer keyboard of her apartment.
Okay.
Just a little amount, but it was definitely fresh blood. The coroner, Peter White, considered briefly the possibility of murder, but quickly ruled that Phoebe had intentionally climbed into the chute herself while on drugs and alcohol, not intending to die by suicide, but it was just a tragic accident.
Ooh, so wait, do they think this sounds like a murder, not a tragic accident. It sounds like someone threw her down the fucking chute. Like, I don't think someone climbs in there. Like,
this is a paragraph, what was it? Many paragraphs of nonsense or whatever. This is...
what was it? It was just something like a bunch of paragraphs or whatever.
This is the first of a bunch of paragraphs. So the story's not over. Let's just put it that way.
And had she not cut her foot, she probably would have survived, it sounds like. I think it was...
Yeah, potentially.
Like if she wouldn't have bled out, she would have just landed.
Yeah, but that's a good point too. Exactly. So basically the coroner says, she intentionally climbed into the trash chute and died because she was on drugs and alcohol. So that's where they landed. So Phoebe's friends, I'm just going to tell you, like, rewind a little bit. So Phoebe herself, her friends remember her as she was like a very memorable person. So her friend Alicia Carville remembers, quote, "When we used to go out, she would walk into the room and there were cat eyes and you can just see everyone turn their eyes to see her. And her friend Hazel Brown said that she was so beautiful and was very creative in a private way through journals and drawing."
Aww.
So apparently, I know, she seemed like a lovely person. So these two women went to school with her in Melbourne. And remembered her as having a very adventurous spirit. So this story, I feel like, is very fitting to describe her personality. Alicia recalls, "I got her an interview for McDonald's and she got the job. She had her first shift, which went okay. Then she had her second shift and she didn't like it anymore. And when you, yeah, that sounds...
Gemini.
No, Gemini. And when you leave, you have to return your uniform. So she took off her uniform, left it in the ice room, left through the back door, and ran home in her underwear."
I like her.
So that's just, I do too. I was like, okay, I get it. Like,
she's spunky.
Say no more.
Yeah, she's got chutzpah, I think.
Yeah, as they say, as grandmama would say. So she had somewhat of a reckless spirit. Some of her friends said when they were 13, they already started going out to clubs, and Phoebe began consuming copious amounts of alcohol and started testing drugs.
Ooh.
And her mom said that this changed her and amplified her, quote, sensitive mercurial personality. So she said when she started drinking and doing drugs, like, it really messed with her because she was such a sensitive person. And she had also been on antidepressants since she was 16. So she had, like, an interesting relationship with substances that her family often, like, had to check in on and were worried about.
And what year was this again that she died?
This is 2010.
Oh, this is much
2010.
More recent than I thought. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's 10, less than 10. Oh, no, exactly 10 years ago this week.
Wow.
So,
whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Creepy. So the family, her family was very close. She grew up with parents Natalie and Len, and her brothers' names were Nikolai and Tom. She was really active. She would spend 8 hours at the gym at a time. I mean, same. You and I can both relate to that.
Every
for
second.
Sure.
I'm actually have to get going. So
it's actually, I'm in the. Can't you see I'm on the treadmill this very moment?
You can't tell. This is a fake leg. I'm actually doing a squat, just one squat this whole time.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
I'm actually cracking my feet on the floor over and over again. That's my workout.
Can confirm because I heard it with my stupid ears. My ears that failed me. They should have shut off in that moment.
Stupid ears. Okay. So, let's see. So anyway, she's very active. She trained and studied karate as well as kickboxing. She was known to be, quote, deadly with her kicks.
Damn.
And I know she was apparently fast-tracked to get a black belt in 2 years, and it usually takes 5. So
Shit.
Like, she was just kicking ass. Let's just put it that way.
Oh my God.
But despite her athleticism, the big, huge question mark about this case was how on earth did she get into this garbage chute?
I'm saying.
Yeah. So to have ended up in the garbage room, the coroner suggested that Phoebe climbed herself into this hatch and lowered herself into the drop. And the coroner, Peter White, said, quote, Phoebe's long-term enthusiasm for climbing and penchant for undertaking physically challenging activity was a factor in this event. And that's how he explained that she got herself into the trash chute.
Which, like, I mean, if it's a story about, like, you know, alcohol and drugs, it's like, what a sad way to go. But also, like, yeah. I understand it a little bit because my first thought is like, okay, a trash chute is just such a fucking gross way to, like, I'm just like a germ freak. But, I mean, like, I think of my hometown friends and like, wow, there was nothing drunk Deirdre loved to do in high school more than like climb to like the top of a building. So like, I get right. trying to like, for the sake of the story, like have some weird little adventure, but like
doing something dangerous. Yeah.
Like, yeah, but the chute, that's a real brave one. Like that's, because that one's just like beyond my, my understanding.
I'm going to need a little more explanation, I guess I would say. Like walk
what was the
me
goal?
through this.
What was the goal?
Yeah, what was the end goal here? So Phoebe's family, understandably, couldn't wrap their heads around the coroner's explanation. So Phoebe's grandfather, he becomes like the central figure of the story. His name is Lorne Campbell, and he was a retired detective. And so when he found this story out about his granddaughter and like what the coroner had said and that they ruled that it was just an accident, he basically stepped up and was like, I'm going to do my own experiments and figure out if this is even possible.
Okay, good.
So exactly. He kind of stepped up and like was the only one kind of representing her
Who, like,
in this case.
kind of called bullshit, or like at least was like, what's going on here?
Who like did something about it. So it's a galvanized steel chute. And if you can imagine, it's sort of like, I mean, I've had different apartment buildings with different trash chutes, but it's basically one of the kind that you pull like a drawer. It's like
that's the one we have at our apartment. It's like it looks like an oven basically. Like
yes, exactly.
You pull this door down, and then you throw things down, and then you close the door back up.
Yes, exactly. And on Crime Junkie, Britt described it as like a library drop off.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you don't read many books, you say. That's your
fair.
So maybe I'll say
an oven. Trust me,
oven?
I know enough about
Cookies?
food. I know what an oven looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like an accordion style, it closes by itself. Like once you let go of it, it's like shuts
on a
itself.
spring. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's like spring loaded, basically. So this trash chute is about 530 millimeters wide, which is about 20 inches wide.
Okay.
So I've heard various 18 to 20 inches wide. So, I mean, that's like a foot and a half.
Sure.
Like not very wide. And it was 6 feet above the ground.
So 6 feet above the ground.
Yes.
Like the opening to the dumpster?
I think the opening to the top was 6 feet off the ground.
Okay. Got it.
So basically...
So like she would have had to climb and basically be upside down by the time she got in there.
To get in there, right.
Assuming the spring didn't like close up on her legs.
Yes. However, since she fell on her foot, it was determined she went down feet first.
Oh, so she like almost like
gone in head.
So she almost like got her foot in and like hoisted herself up, and then kind of like sat and tried to like almost go sledding down on her butt.
Yes. So the only way it could have happened is if she had climbed up and gone feet first, like slid
like a water slide, like tried to
like the world's worst water slide.
Like instead of water to make it all slippery, it's trash and steel.
It's banana peels. Yeah. Yes.
Yikes.
So while Lorne wasn't saying, her grandfather, he wasn't saying like, oh, it's impossible to put a person here, but he was saying like, how would Phoebe have climbed in herself? She was a small woman. However, he was like, I'm skeptical of this. So what he did is he gathered 2 of Phoebe's friends who had like similar, really small stature and were pretty athletic to test out how she could have climbed into this chute. So you can see this online.
Oh.
Basically, they have like a harness on so that they don't actually fall in.
Good.
But he's basically testing like, can you
lift yourself up 6 feet into this tiny little pocket?
Like, see if you can do it. And so there's videos of it, and they're really trying. And technically, okay, so she would have, like I said, have to open the hatch, climb in, while attempting to like grip the wall or something.
Right. Yeah.
There's not like a handle, inside the chute. So trying to grip the wall or something and slide in, and then seat yourself, like you said, as if like a sled or a water slide or something. And then lower yourself in that way. So you can watch the demonstration online, but there are 2 women and you can see them with like immense difficulty try to get themselves into the chute, and they do eventually, but it is not easy. And they have to balance themselves against the wall, and basically because of the angle of like you have to go from top down, you have to balance yourself on the wall. Like there's no way you could get in without touching anything.
Right.
Really.
Okay. Did they find fingerprints on the walls and stuff?
So
sorry.
This is literally my next bullet. On the day of Phoebe's death, not one fingerprint was found on the trash chute or the surrounding walls.
Yeah, unless you're like fucking Spider-Man. You can't just like or like an Olympian like box jumper or something. Like you can't just like get from the ground to 6 feet up without your hands helping you in some way.
Well, and somebody would have had to open the chute too, you know? And so when I'm thinking, and they're like, well, so, but then I'm thinking if there were no fingerprints, so like somebody had to wipe it down, right? Because other people are using it for trash, right? So like you'd imagine somebody has touched this thing.
Right. Yeah. That checks out.
I don't know. In my mind, I'm like,
like someone would have had to come back for cleanup, and it would have to be more than like the apartment complex janitor, like, you know.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like even if she did it herself, like wouldn't somebody else have used this trash chute ever to the point that like a fingerprint showed up?
Got it.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's just weird to me that there were literally no finger. Like if we tested our trash chutes, I'm sure there would be plenty of gross fingerprints.
There would be coronavirus on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
okay, fair point.
So yeah, it just feels like someone like bleached the whole thing down.
To me, I'm like weirded out. And I guess I did hear that like on galvanized steel, it's hard to leave fingerprints, but even on the wall, there were no fingerprints. So yeah, either somebody had to like be really stealth about it or somebody wiped it down.
The only thing I can think of is like if you brought tools with you that were also small enough to fit down there. But then like I guess you could like I'm thinking like if she brought a weight to hold the door open while she climbed inside, but then you'd also have to like I mean there's no way to like balance yourself on that while you sit yourself down without touching the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. So it was
maybe
just
she used
fishy.
the broom. Maybe she was like kind of like doing a little balance act. Right?
The broom.
Well,
the broom was in the garbage room downstairs. Like the lady went to go get the broom.
So like she hadn't actually. She was about
unless
to be
she
down
brought the broom, but I don't. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay, got it. I don't know.
I know it's very bizarre and confusing. So basically, it proved impossible in their experiments to do this without leaving any fingerprints by yourself, anyway. And if she had used her hands or if somebody had used their hands, who wiped them away,
right?
Essentially.
Yeah.
So they do this testing on the actual chute where she went down, and they're able to figure out like how somebody might be able to get into the chute. But then they are thinking, okay, well now we should see what he wants to figure out about the actual drop itself. And he's not about to drop her friends down the chute. So
why not?
I know, exactly. And so instead what they do is he contacts the company who made the steel hatch, and he has them build a replica to see how far like the testers, the guinea pigs, can get into the chute.
Wow, this person's really dedicated, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, he's not stopping at anything, basically. So they figure out that it is possible, but very difficult to get into the trash chute alone. And so what he does is he conducts an experiment where a male demonstrator carries a female demonstrator who is pretending to be unconscious.
Oh, smart.
To see like how that would work. And it's actually really creepy to watch because this woman is like splayed out.
Like dead weight?
I mean, really, yeah, like dead weight. And he's trying to like hoist her in. It's very disturbing, honestly, to watch. So in this context, the man is able to place her into the hatch with more ease, and she doesn't touch the hatch like she would have if she were by herself.
Okay.
So that requires none of her fingerprints to be around the wall or anything.
Got it.
So Lauren is starting to think maybe this is what happened. Maybe this is not accidental like they apparently thought. There is one other possible explanation, which is that she was put in the chute by someone else. So Lauren starts to get kind of stuck on this theory.
Ooh.
And what he discerns from his experiment is that it's easier for someone to dispose of, say, a body type like Phoebe's, a woman like Phoebe, than it would be for her to climb in herself. It would just like...
I feel like he didn't need any of those experiments to know that.
No, yeah.
Like, I'm glad we have the data now, but
apparently he did because nobody believed him. So once he did the experiment, I know it's really fucked up. So he was like, great, just like I expected or just like I suspected, this is not just an easy feat for her to just like hop on in and, toss herself down the trash chute. So on the day of Phoebe's death, I have like a little timeline here. According to Phoebe's partner, her boyfriend, Ant, so I think his full name's Anthony, but he goes by Ant, Ant Hampel. And he and Phoebe lived together. So according to him, he had left for work at 8:30 in the morning, and she was still sleeping with their dog, Yoshi. And she had been recovering from a drinking, what he called a bender from earlier that week. So at 8:45 a.m., she sent an email and used her computer. At 11:43, there was a fire alarm in the building, like a drill, pretty much.
Okay.
And you can see the CCTV footage where Phoebe leaves the apartment with the dog as part of the fire drill. So that is actually the last time she's ever seen on footage.
Did they see her go back up to her apartment or just leave the apartment for the drill?
I believe it was just so while this video is going on, you can actually see her with the dog, and you actually see her kind of like stumble against a wall.
Oh.
Which some people say like, oh, well, maybe she's drunk. But
right,
she also
or hungover.
like, but she also has a dog. So it's like maybe she just got pulled or tripped or, you know, who knows.
My thought would be it was that if she had just come back from drinking and now there's like this loud ass alarm, maybe she fell over from like the hangover sound of it or something.
Yeah, well, that was when she was already outside. So like she had left the building with the dog.
Oh, okay. I was thinking
camera.
Her going down the hallway or something.
No, yeah, like outside you can kind of see. I think it's outside. I haven't seen that video. I've only seen a still shot of her leaving the building with the dog. So I'm not sure if it's outside or inside.
Either way, she was falling.
Yes.
Got it.
She had hit a wall at some point or like kind of stumbled, essentially. She stumbled a little bit.
Got it.
So as a person who drinks and as a person who's very clumsy, I stumble whether or not I'm drinking. So I feel like it's not necessarily, I feel like it's not necessarily proof. You know what I mean? Like, you can point to it and say like, I bet she's drunk, but like, there's just no proof of that.
Sure.
From the video itself. So there is a picture of her returning into the building at 11:50. So she does go back inside.
Cool. Okay, that's what
after. Yeah. And she uses the computer again. So that's just further proof that she made it like not only inside, but back to her apartment.
And arguably currently doing daily life things instead of like...
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Just like normal day-to-day stuff. So at 11:50, which is 7 minutes after the alarm, you can see her going back into the building. And as soon as she gets back into her apartment, she uses her computer again. And this is like around noon-ish, like a little before noon. So basically sometime between noon and 7 p.m., she goes into this shoot.
Noon and 7 p.m. That's a wide gap.
That is a wide gap, yes. So,
and they don't have any cameras on the dumpster or anything?
Oh, I'll tell you.
Okay.
It gets infuriating, Em.
Well, P.S. It's already there because nobody chose to use common sense that it's easier for someone to get thrown down a chute than climb into a chute.
Yeah, and honestly, the common sense just gets less common and more scarce. So
yikes. Okay, got it.
Don't worry.
I'm prepared.
So there's not like too much activity that day that kind of points to anything leading up to her death. But if you go back a little ways longer, there's some odd activity that has occurred. So I'm just going to tell you, like, leading up to the day of her death, some of the stuff that was happening. So Phoebe had moved into this apartment with Aunt earlier in 2010. And previously she had dated mostly kind of like grungy, like musician types.
Okay.
But Aunt was kind of this like classier, older guy. He was in his early 40s and she was 24. So there was like a substantial age gap between them.
Sure.
And they had met in 2009. She was working at a high market hair salon and he was an events promoter with clients like Kylie Minogue, Paris Hilton, and AC/DC.
Ayo. Okay.
Ayo. And so he was like kind of swanky, and her family actually really liked him. He helped Phoebe's brother get a job, but at the same time, they kind of had a feeling that this relationship wasn't forever.
Okay.
They were like, yeah, we like him, okay, or we like him.
Mr.
He's a nice
Right,
guy.
but not Mr. Mr. Right now, but not Mr. Right.
Mr. Right now, exactly.
I see.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Look. There's nothing I'm better at than relationship labels,
than gossiping about relationships,
than finding ways to beat around the bush. That's exactly my forte.
Oh boy. So according to Phoebe's mom, Natalie, what she found strange is that although Phoebe had lived in the apartment for nearly a year before her death, there was little to show her presence anywhere in the apartment. So as you know, I like to just leave trash piles of my belongings wherever I go, whether it's your house, my house, the ground on the sidewalk. Our house, our shared house, our haven of our emotional affair.
Yeah, I love it.
We're like we're gonna call TMZ and be like, guess what? And they're gonna be like, we don't care.
We should do like some Home Alone, like cut out posters, like do like some shadow art, and then like call like World Star or like TMZ and just have them just snoop. Who knows what's going on? But it's us.
Who knows? It's just an anonymous tip.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I'm not saying it's us. Here's my exact name and how you spell it and pronounce it for TV. But I mean, it could be someone else.
And don't pronounce it wrong, please. Oh boy. So yeah, it was just weird. Okay, speaking of like, as somebody who literally can't, like, I don't even want to turn the computer. It's horrifying. Like, just like I leave stuff everywhere. But like, she just didn't have stuff like in the apartment. There were a couple photos of her and Aunt, but all her stuff were still in storage downstairs. So it was just odd. Like it felt off because she had lived there almost a year. So it was like, that's weird.
Yeah, it feels a little cold. Like she's she almost like she has a plan to leave.
Yeah, like 1 foot out the door almost.
Yes, exactly. Like she's not.
I like to beat around the bush as well,
and that's why. And that's what I love. It feels like she's like kind of already planning to not get comfy there.
Yes, exactly. Nothing felt comfy about it. So Phoebe had actually told her mom that the relationship was fraying and was getting more volatile, and she was worried Aunt was going to pop the question on their upcoming trip to Paris that Christmas. And remember, this took place December of 2010, like early December.
Oof.
So she confided in her family, including her mom, her grandmother, and her brother Tom, about her relationship. She said Aunt was kind of controlling, and she felt like she was losing her voice. And remember, this is someone her friends described as like reckless and...
Right.
Like, not necessarily in a bad way, but just that was her, you know, she was just kind of a...
It sounds like she was, I mean, it sounds like, at least in her relationship, if it matches her personality, she was probably a little, like, flighty and, like, didn't want to settle, you know? Like...
Yeah. It's almost like she was feeling stifled.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. She felt like she couldn't, like, be herself. And while together with Aunt, Phoebe had actually cut her hair dramatically, like, really short and dyed it black. And you can see this... in the CCTV footage of her during the fire drill. And according to Phoebe's grandmother, she basically looked like the spitting image of Aunt's sister, Christina. And she saw this as like an indication that she was just trying to like fit into this mold for Aunt and like kind of fit what he wanted. And so she like changed her appearance. And it was like a dramatic change. Like she didn't have short hair. Her hair was not black.
Right.
So it was just like a very sudden change. And her family was like, she looks a lot like his sister. Maybe she's trying to like emulate that. Who knows?
I would have taken that as kind of like a red herring of sorts of being like, if she's so like adventurous and reckless, like she strikes me as someone who would like go get green hair for no reason.
Who'd cut her hair. Exactly. And she worked at a hair salon. So it's like,
maybe like
I don't
one
think
of her
it's that weird.
friends was in training and needed to do a dye job, you know?
I've always wished I had a friend like that.
I was always afraid someone was going to ask me because like not that I'm particular about my hair. Like I don't care, as long as it doesn't look terrible, I don't care what it looks like, but I'm terrified the one time someone like needed to practice, I would like have a massive like chunk of hair missing. Like, so.
Oh, see, that just happens to me now. My bald spot. I'd never like what my hair looks like ever under any circumstance. So to me, I'm like, listen, try away. If you find some miracle where it looks good, then like you're my hero.
I think you have great hair.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. I don't love it, but, that's the story for another day. Anyway, so she had dyed her hair, yada, yada. And her family was like, yeah, she seemed like she was not herself anymore. So in October of 2010, this was 2 years prior to her death, Phoebe had a big argument with Aunt. And Natalie, Phoebe's mom, remembers that Phoebe was saying Aunt was getting more and more aggressive. She felt like she wasn't able to assert herself in the relationship. And she actually traveled after this argument to Malakuta, which is a town in Australia, to see Jeanette, her grandmother. I just love Grandma Jeanette. I don't even know her, but I love her.
It reminds me of Grandma Pam.
Grandma Pam and Grandma Jeanette would be quite a duo. The Fox Sisters 2.0.
Oh, I love that.
According to Jeanette, Phoebe had somewhat made up her mind that she was going to stay in Malakuta. She had even lined up a summer job. Remember, October there is like springtime. It's like opposite seasons.
Was not even
Australia.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was like, summer job. Okay.
That's what, yeah. Well, it was just because it was you and I just have blind loyalty. I was like, that makes sense. But
yeah.
Now I'm picking it up if there was a reason for that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's December or it's October at this point, but she's like, I'm going to pick up a summer job at a golf course here where my grandma lives. And Jeanette was like, I think Phoebe wanted to break up with him, but she was encouraging her to go back and do it in person rather than pull a Christine and just like send an awkward text and be like, anyway, bye, which is how I do things. So like the least confrontational person ever. Don't worry, I'm working on it in therapy. Okay. So Phoebe took her grandma's advice, went back home to Melbourne, but they didn't break up. So I don't know if they just rectified things, they got back together, or they never actually split. But Phoebe's behavior got even more unexplainable. So this is an email that Phoebe had written to her mom, Natalie, around this time. I'm just going to read it. I've been thinking about my birthday present, and I'd like you to hang on to that for me. There may be a time in my life where I need to get away without much notice, and I'd like to have an international flight available for me.
Uh-oh.
I also ask that you don't mention any of this to anyone, and I won't bring it up until I need it.
No.
So, yeesh.
Yeah, that's different than being reckless or adventurous because, like, even though it sounds like it could be reckless and adventurous because it's like, oh, like if, you know, there might be a time where I do something random. But like usually when you're reckless and adventurous, it comes with spontaneity, not intent.
Yes. Yes. Wow, that was really deep, Em.
I mean, I'm the love guru, so.
That's right. You're beating around all the bushes.
That's what they call me. Like I know how to really massage the mind and
with some chutzpah.
That's me. Yep.
So it's just a little shady and like, yeah, maybe she was just like, I don't know, maybe I'll want to, but yeah, you're right. It's like planning ahead. It's a little strange.
It sounds ominous too of like,
it does.
I might need to leave the country. Like,
and don't tell anyone.
Yeah. The don't tell anyone is like just affirming like, I have a secret.
Something bad. Yeah. And the week before death, there were more red flags. So this one gives me goose cam, I gotta say. So the day before she died, Wednesday, December 1st of 2010, she had sent a group text, like a mass text, to her mom, her grandmother, aunt, a few other family members, and her boss. And this is what the text read. In all caps, "Hi, family, comma. I am in bed about to sleep, and when I wake, I will transform into the most incredible human being you've ever seen. Not, I will go to hospital. It's safer there, and I hear the special tonight is tomato soup. Delicious, nutritious. I love you all very much, but not enough to send an individual text. Sorry about that, but time is sleep, and I must be on my way. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream, XO."
Okay, either it's drugs or she made an escape room. Like it's one of
God,
the
it
two.
sounds like M's escape room.
It sounds like a riddle. Like she's trying to like because like I know like I'm saying that like in a jokey way, but also like in a serious way. It sounds like maybe like Allison and I have very like we have a code word if something's going down like that. There could have been something in there where she was implying something to someone. You know?
Yeah. It was. I think. I mean, it sounds to me personally, and again, obviously, I'm no expert by any means, but it sounds to me either like drugs or mental illness. You know, you see like she's
not sounding stable no matter what's happening.
No, it doesn't. And you know, you see people writing messages and stuff in a manic state or what have you, and sometimes they do come off very I don't know, bubbly and like aggressive and strange, and like that does happen. So in my mind, that's kind of where my head went. But the fact that she also did experiment with drugs and things, who knows?
Yeah.
And also that combined with like kind of the paranoia of I might need to leave the country is like a little bit of a weird combo happening the same month. So
I do. I mean,
knows?
I really personally just want it to be like she was trying to give someone a tip off because I'd love for that to be a twist in the story. But I do think like, first of all, the first sign of her not being stable was that she put her mom in a group chat with her boss. It's like, that was enough for me.
I was like, uh-oh, boyfriend's in there, mom and the boss? Yeah, this is bad.
Yeah. So,
completely.
Do we, I mean, I guess I know your answer where you think she wrote that. Is one of the theories that she was already dead and someone wrote that for two people? Okay.
No, because this was before she died. This was the day before she died.
Oh, the day before.
So,
okay, cool.
Yeah. So this was pre-fire drill, pre all that. So she had just sent this kind of mysteriously the day before.
And that's why people are now associating her stumbling with the dog with like probably some sort of substance abuse.
Yeah.
Because it was just all at the same time.
And because she had a tendency to drink and do drugs.
Okay.
And I will tell you about the tox report in a little bit.
Okay.
So automatically, for obvious reasons, Jeanette, the grandmother's reaction is that something is not right here. Phoebe's in trouble.
Jeanette's onto something.
Yeah, Jeanette's onto something. And this is not the kind of text Phoebe would send. So it's not like they're like, oh, Phoebe with her silly nursery rhymes.
With
like,
her,
this is not...
with her troll under the bridge riddles, like, you know.
Oh my God. Tomato soup. What could it mean?
Right,
So they were like, you know, her grandma's like, this is not... I love how grandma and grandpa are like, step aside, everybody. I know what's up.
Look, when there's a crisis, like, they can really come to the forefront and fuck some shit up if they need to.
Lorne and Jeanette, they are on the case.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So in Phoebe's on Sunday before she died, Phoebe had a Skype call with her mom, Natalie, and Natalie remembers that the lights were all off in Phoebe's room when she called. So she was in a dark room, and Natalie had asked Phoebe whether things had been patched up with Aunt, and instead of responding, she lifted a finger to silence her. And Natalie thinks Phoebe wanted to say something but couldn't. So Phoebe said, "Aunt's watching a movie in the other room." And that was it. Don't talk about it.
Oh.
So she was like, that was a little shady. And then on Monday, Phoebe met with her psychologist, who remembers that she was at a pretty low point. And they had been working on a plan to reduce her drinking, which had worked for a little while until she had relapsed. And her psychologist felt she was depressed, and said it was the closest to suicidal ideation that she had seen her.
Oh, shit.
However, she said she didn't necessarily think she was suicidal. But it's also, that's such a, I think the word, a nuanced way of...
Sure.
It's not that black and white, you can't be like, oh, the therapist said she was this way. It's there's so much more that goes into, that relationship. And
it's not just opinion. a 1-2 step. There's a lot going on there.
Exactly. It's just kind of a broad statement. And it's not evidence, in my opinion. And that evening, Phoebe and Aunt had gone to dinner, which ended in a huge screaming match. Phoebe stormed off to meet up with her friend Bren for a drink, but the bar closed early, so Aunt called Phoebe. The bar closed early, so the drink lasted only 30 minutes, and during that time, Aunt called Phoebe 27 times.
Girl, okay. I don't like that.
No, so I'm like, that's not good.
That, in case there are confused people out there, that screams abuse, I'm pretty sure.
The 27, calling someone 27 times while they're with a friend and not answering is alarming to me. Mm-hmm. It's a red flag it's a red flag.
It's not a green flag.
No, it's somewhere, I would say it's maroon.
It's peach. Yeah.
It's a little peachy. So Bren then went home because he was working the next day, and Phoebe basically just refused to go home and went out and ended up at a friend's house. And Tuesday morning, she went to the apartment, but Aunt had already left for work. And as soon as she got home, she made calls to the crisis line, her doctor, and her psychologist, who spoke to her for 30 minutes because she was really distressed about her drinking relapse, and her bender, as they called it. And she was really upset about her relationship. So she was clearly not in a good place by any means. And after this, she headed out again for another big night of drinking.
Right.
So on Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. is when she sent the tomato soup message. And it's important to note that it was 10:30 on Wednesday because it was sent from her iPhone. And this is, so the iPhone had originally belonged to Aunt, and she had an iPhone and a Nokia.
Okay.
But Phoebe had dropped her iPhone on the street on Monday and broken it. And so now we reach this inconsistency where up until a year after her disappearance, Aunt maintains that on Wednesday, he had brought Phoebe's iPhone to the shop to get repaired. In which case, how on earth was she able to send this tomato soup message from the iPhone?
Aha, I see.
And I think probably one of our first thoughts would be iMessage. We know she had a laptop maybe.
Right.
But I did a little research. iMessage was not invented until 2011.
Oh, so, Miss Christine. Oh, dun, 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 dun.
That is my theme song.
Just Detective Schieffer on the case. Okay.
So I was because that's my first thought. You and I sometimes will be on the phone and texting on our computers. It's just whatever. But so I was I don't think it could have been sent from her laptop. So the confusion is, he says he went and brought it to the shop on Wednesday, but she texted from it on Wednesday. So just odd. So years later, he kind of recanted that and said, maybe I dropped it off on Thursday. But of course, the shop doesn't have a record of it. So it's just kind of just fishy.
Sure.
So all we have of that whole story is a receipt that shows that Aunt's dad picked the phone up a few days after Phoebe died. So we know that the phone was picked up from the repair shop. Okay. We're just not sure when it was dropped off. So on the Wednesday after Phoebe's death, Natalie and Len were called in for a meeting at Len's house with detectives Clancy and Wallace.
That sounds the like a Roger Rabbit 1940s investigation
I'm glad
team.
You said that.
Yeah,
I looked up the name Clancy like 3 times. I was like, "Are we sure it's Clancy?" Yeah,
like
it
not
is
Clancy or something.
Right. I was like, I must have just put an H. Nope, it's Clancy.
Okay.
So Clancy and Wallace were the homicide team investigating Phoebe's death, and they basically told Natalie and Len that there was no additional party involved. She did this herself, which is basically what they said from the beginning. And so, as said before, the family was still like, I don't think that's true. Like, you're not looking into this enough. So there were more questions apart from like the trash chute incident that Lauren had already proven was extremely difficult.
Sure.
So there were other things. For example, Phoebe's sunglasses were found near her body. And they were like, well, if she walked to the trash chute, why was she wearing sunglasses like indoors? It's just another weird discrepancy.
Could have been like hanging on her shirt or in her pocket or something.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, or above your head. Yeah. So to me, I'm like, that's not a huge deal, but you know, it's something that they couldn't explain. And the coroner had said, so there was bruising all up, like I said earlier, on her wrist, and her upper arm and elbow. And the coroner had said Phoebe was trying to control her descent on the sides of the chute.
Oh, okay.
However, for me, this is what they talked about this in Crime Junkie too, of like, if you got in that chute, you weren't going with your arms down.
No.
Like your arms were above your head.
Right.
And so like, I guess you could kind of push sideways, but basically the way that they had explained it was that she was using her hands to try and stop the fall.
I see.
But like if her hands were above her, there's not really much you can do to try and stop your own fall.
Maybe cover your own head, if that.
Yeah.
There's really nothing else. Yeah.
You're kind of just crammed in there. And so I thought that was odd. Also, the medical evidence in the autopsy didn't really prove much of this at all. So it's just another theory they kind of came up with and stuck to. Also, if she were controlling her descent and trying to stop herself, she would have had more dirt on her, and the chute, because the chute was obviously filthy, and she wasn't found with like any marks or like dirt on her arms or anything. And so that was another weird thing of like, you'd think she would be like pushing against the sides of the chute, or you know, something, if that's what the bruising was from. But there was no dirt or trash found on her, you know, skin. So another weird.
I would argue that would definitely be there. Like that's not even like a oh, maybe it would. Like that's
I'd argue that if you tried not to touch the walls, you'd still be covered in like trash.
You go in a trash chute and try not to get dirty. Let's put it that way.
I try to put trash in a trash chute and I come home like, why? That's so nasty. I smell bad.
Exactly.
So the Handsjuks are struggling with this whole situation, especially because the police just keep saying, "Oh no, she did it on purpose," and they're like, "Well, what the hell," you know? So seemingly everybody else seemed to be doing just fine. So Phoebe's boyfriend Ant, only 5 days after her death, took to Facebook. You know, your favorite word. Took to Facebook.
I don't know if it's my favorite word. It's certainly my genetic code at this point.
He took to Facebook to inform his friends that he had made peace. Okay, hang on. Sorry, that's not quite what he said.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of in my opinion, but he didn't quite say that.
Gotcha.
So he informed his friends that Phoebe took her own life to ease her pain. So essentially, he's saying like, I've made peace with the fact that she did this on purpose. She died by suicide.
Like she wanted this to happen.
Yeah,
like I'm happy she's in a better place.
Yeah, he's basically confirming that it was a suicide by saying like, she, you know, was in a, what did he say? She took her own life to ease her pain. And meanwhile, her family's like, no, like, we don't think so. Aren't you on our side? Like, don't you think like something happened? So it's a little weird that he is the only one seeming to be totally on board with the idea that this is a suicide.
Granted, like this, you know, Phoebe and Allison are not the same person, it seems, in many ways. But like, if Allison, you know, we found her body in a trash chute, and like there's a good chance that someone threw her down there. For me to act like, oh no, this was what was meant to be, I would hope someone would think that was fishy.
Yeah,
you know?
it's just a little bit like, okay, you already shut the case so quickly. Like you shut the door on this so quickly that you're already on board.
Not curious about what could have happened.
Or not even like disputing.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like the rest of her friends and family are all like, hell no, she didn't do this on purpose. And I mean, granted, maybe he knew her better and was like, no, I really believe this. So, I mean, you know, who's to say? But it was just something that seemed a little bit fishy. Natalie and Len, Phoebe's parents, wanted to speak to Aunt, but he was basically really hostile toward them and was like, nope, I'm too grief-stricken. So eventually, Natalie finally texted him and was like, can we please chat alone? So he's like, okay, sure, come over. And when they got there the following Tuesday, Aunt had both his father and his mother there as well, like as like backup.
Yeah,
almost,
so like he wasn't alone in a room with the mom.
Yes. So during the meetup, Aunt's father apparently came up to Len and said, I'm sorry for your loss, but she was a very troubled girl, obviously. Yikes.
Oof. Okay, I mean, this is not making him look good. Like,
yes.
At
no,
all.
it's not. And Natalie also remembered the dad saying, well, of course it was suicide. So like, yikes.
Wow.
Okay. So it sounds shocking. However, you might find it less shocking when you learn that Aunt's father was a former Supreme Court lawyer.
Okay.
He was a public figure. So basically, yeah, they had to shut the door on this and say it was obviously a suicide. She was troubled.
Yeah.
Bye.
And please, God, don't ask any more questions because I could look really bad. Yeah.
Yes. Just like leave it alone. We have nothing to do with this. So with this in mind, it basically comes as no surprise that Aunt was never formally considered a suspect. He just basically said he wasn't at home and they took his word for it.
Oh,
the end.
That's great. Great investigating there, guys.
Fantastic.
Super.
And in fact, the coroner actually praised Aunt for having taken care of Phoebe during her drinking problems and depression.
Get out of town. What are you talking about?
So on the day of Phoebe's death, Aunt claimed to have been in meetings all afternoon. However, this isn't true because swipe records of like the key card to the apartment building show that he got back to the apartment at 6 p.m. and her body wasn't discovered till 7 p.m.
And that's a much smaller gap, isn't it?
That's a big old window of an hour where he's suddenly saying, oh, I was gone all afternoon, but now there's this hour of time.
And he's kind of volatile and she's thinking of leaving and
Yep. So Aunt claims that when he got home, Phoebe wasn't there. There was already broken glass on the floor, like I mentioned earlier, blood on the cushion and computer keyboard. He said the blood looked fresh. He also saw Phoebe's handbag on the kitchen counter and her hair straightener was plugged in and turned on. So it basically suggests she was getting ready to leave because she was doing her hair.
Yeah.
Her purse was out and still there. There's broken glass and blood. So who knows what order of events took place here, but the fact that the hair straightener was still on is like really ominous to me. I mean,
it's like I mean, I can just imagine with my own personal opinion of what probably happened. I'm imagining that he plugged it in just to keep it on for a little too long, and then like if he called the police or something. I know this isn't how it happened because like she was found later. But in my mind, I think like if he were to plan this out in case someone noticed, like he put the flat iron out on the sink to make it look like she had been there and all that.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is that like she was straightening her hair and they got into a fight and he...
Oh, no, in my head, it's much more ominous where like he like pulled it out so that he could like set up a scene.
Yeah.
I have no proof of that. It's just what in my head is happening because I've already kind of like...
I guess, but in my head, though,
something.
that makes it look fishier on him because if he's trying to say it was a suicide, why on earth would he like plug in the hair straightener?
You know
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's basically saying, oh yeah, she was really troubled and she decided to end her own life. But then like, you know, they found the hair straightener on, there was glass on the floor.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm
just trying to chalk it up in my head, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very weird, and like maybe he did, but maybe he thought it would look better that way. I don't know. But so the hair straightener was on. And then, even though he apparently found broken glass and blood and a hair straightener on, he had a beer and a cigarette.
Yeah, and was he just like, he just went to bed? He was like, oh, that's what a quirky day.
Yeah, took a nap, watched some Whose Line Is It Anyway? I don't know why that's the first show that came into my brain. Anyway, so he had a beer and a cigarette. He made a series of calls, one to a work colleague first, then to a close friend, and then, okay, now this is where things get real weird. He ordered Thai takeout from a Thai restaurant called the Golden Triangle.
Okay.
Now, this is ultra weird because only hours later, or like within the hour, basically, he and Phoebe were supposed to be meeting Phoebe's dad, Len, for dinner at the Golden Triangle for just a dinner out with her dad.
I don't know how that makes it so fishy, but I've decided he's guilty.
And like he knew he was going to this dinner, so it's like
it was almost like a slap in the face of like, I know exactly what's supposed to happen, and I want to make it almost weird enough that you even know what I did, but like no one else will figure it out.
Yeah, it's almost like toying, but like it's just so odd because it doesn't really make sense. So like they were supposed to be meeting, and so presumably she was doing her hair to get ready to meet her dad, which was the plan. And it was just really strange because suddenly he's ordering. It's not like he knew at this point she was like bailing on dinner. Like maybe he just thought, oh, she's late, or who knows. But it was just like, why on earth would you be like, okay, dinner might be off, I'm gonna order takeout. If he was under the impression that she was alive and well, and we're about to go to Outback together, and then I order Outback inside, and like people are waiting for us, like what a weird, rude thing, and like so specifically just to mess with you. Yeah, it's so weird. And also, like, listen, it doesn't say this, but in my mind, he didn't order her an entree. So I'm like, what, is he just ordering himself food and being like, anyway, she'll find her own food?
It feels like a petty thing of like, oh, like, I knew we were going there and I already had a craving. So now that I've eaten, you can go be with your dad.
Yeah, you can, I'm bailing. Because, it's just so weird. So it's just strange, like,
that's weird.
Did he forget? Like, who knows? Maybe he just eats Thai every day. I don't think that's the case, but it's just like really strange. So that same night, 6:51 p.m., remember they're supposed to meet with Phoebe's dad. So Len calls Phoebe's phone to be like, I'm running a bit late. And of course it goes to voicemail. But again, this is really strange. Within a minute or two, Aunt calls Len, and get this, it's the first time he has ever telephoned Phoebe's dad. So like he's never called him before. Ever. So he just happens to call him within 2 minutes of this call to Phoebe's iPhone, but he calls from his own phone, and basically just to say Phoebe's not here, so I'm not sure where she is. And he's like, well, we're supposed to meet, and Aunt's like, I know, but I don't she's not home, I don't know where she is. Like probably eating fucking pad thai in the background while he's talking to him, but
and sitting on a couch with blood and glass on it.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, basically, Phoebe's not here, I don't know where she is. And Aunt claims that like the timing of this was coincidence, because remember, her phone was allegedly, he had already brought it to the repair shop. Yeah. And so like the fact that Phoebe's dad called Phoebe's iPhone, and then immediately he called him back, but he's saying like, oh no, it was just I just happened to call him right when he called her phone. Her phone wasn't here, it was at the repair shop. Weird. It's just like really weird. He's basically just saying like, I didn't have her phone, I didn't have access to it. So just another odd thing. So shortly after he spoke to Len, Aunt's takeout arrived, if you recall.
Yes. And
the takeout guy was actually the one who alerted him to the police presence at the building.
Oh, shit.
The takeout guy's like, have you seen what's going on here? And he's like, no, what's happening? And the takeout guy's like, yo, there's like police everywhere and the building's taped off. Like,
maybe was he trying to get an alibi or he looked like really cool, calm, and collected?
Oh, or he needed someone to see him in the apartment. Yeah. And he's like, what restaurant exists? Oh, this one. The only one I can think of.
He might have really been panicking like about getting caught. And he was like...
And that's a very good point.
You know?
Like he needs someone to spot him in the apartment.
Look, if I throw enough what ifs at you, one of them's going to stick every time.
Throw spaghetti at me and one time I'll catch it.
Just
and be
one
like,
pot.
Maybe. Open
your mouth. I'm going to throw the whole pot at you. See what happens.
One Alfreda.
One linguine.
One linguine. Just throw it directly into my mouth. It's noodles all the way to the top. All right. It's one linguine all the way to the top. Okay.
It sure is.
So the guy, that's a good point, Em. So maybe the guy's just like, he's like, what's going on? And the guy's like, it's so weird. There's police everywhere. And he's like, wow, you don't say. Yeah. I'm in my apartment drinking a beer. Yeah. So you could be very well right. So while the crime scene's being investigated, Aunt's father, and mother were all sitting in the apartment while police were, quote unquote, working the scene. However, the inquest actually had no idea, like later they did an inquest into the case, and they had no idea how the parents got into the apartment because there was no like swipe for them to get in.
Huh.
So basically this just points to like anybody could have gotten in. It's an apartment building. You can follow somebody inside. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, people just like follow me in all the time. Or,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, even if I don't know who they are, like I'll be, oh, can you hold the door? You know?
Yes, exactly. So it doesn't eliminate the possibility that somebody came in, like a stranger, a dangerous person followed her. Who knows? Like,
sure.
I don't know. But basically, it's just a little weird that they got in without swiping. So who knows who else could have. Now, there was, as you asked earlier, CCTV footage of the building.
Okay.
But, fun fact, police didn't ask for it until 2 days after her death, when it was already taped over.
Fuck. Okay.
I know. Basically, they got there and were like, it's a suicide. Police initially were like, it's a suicide. And then...
would they have already... I guess they wouldn't have, but would they have connected her at all to, like a wealthy person? Like she was dating the son of a wealthy guy who wanted to keep things hush-hush, and so they just immediately turned a blind eye? It
could have... Yeah, it definitely could have been that, too. Like, especially later when they did another investigation and, like... he was basically still untouched and they were like, nope, nothing to see here. You know, it very well could have been like, we don't want to mess with this like powerful family, or, you know, it could very well have been that for sure. I don't know if they knew it right away, but they could have, and been like, oh yeah, she was troubled. That's it. So it gets worse, because what's even more infuriating is that the garbage room where she landed, they didn't check anything. They didn't take the trash bags around her to see if like maybe she went with something else, like maybe she was throwing away some of the broken glass from the apartment, who knows, but they didn't check anything. They didn't check her surroundings, the trash bags, nothing. It gets worse. They didn't take her phone and laptop in for testing until 3 months later.
Oh my god.
And it took them 2.5 years before they actually analyzed them.
What?
I know, it's like worthless
What? So like by 2013 they had a guess.
They were like, I guess we'll finally check her emails. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. That sounds like a couple dirty cops or dirty rich people doing some exchanges of goods. Something
shady. Especially because as for the blood in the apartment, they never fucking checked it or tested it for DNA. They just were like...
In 2013, they did not check blood all over the apartment of a dead person who was found in the trash.
10, but yes.
Sorry, 2010.
There were small amounts of blood, but that's almost sketchier to me, because I'm like, why were there small amounts of blood throughout the apartment?
Also,
like,
why was there blood on your lap? I'm still trying to wrap my head, like, who like slices their foot open or something? I was like, let me like fill out and let me...
Well, and that's part of the...
Write an email.
Well, that's part of the thought too, is like maybe, I mean, if she was kind of in a state or on drugs, like maybe she did cut herself and
you're right.
wasn't like, you know what I mean?
Cognizant of the pain or something.
But then again, what if they got into a fight and he got a cut and then he went on her computer to Google like how to get rid of a body in a trash chute and they never
like,
tested the blood.
Traces of his shit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they could have literally checked the laptop, which they didn't for 2.5 years. And the blood, and they didn't.
The fact that people know there was blood in this apartment and the police are like, they immediately reverted back to like that John Mulaney bit of like cops in the 30s where they're like, mop it up. Weird.
Oh, what a mess.
Back to my hunch. Like, are you fucking kidding? You cannot tell me that that there wasn't something shady happening behind the scenes.
They basically just decided it was suicide, didn't want to bother with it. And then once things kind of got rolling, they were like, well, we already decided it's a suicide. It's just too much work to really bother.
It's not even that hard. The evidence is literally everywhere. And this just pick some up and put it in a little vial or a Q-tip.
Yeah, and watch a CSI. Don't worry.
I know enough that like you don't need much to literally just take it to an office and test it.
To check the DNA, yeah. So obviously Lorne, Phoebe's grandfather, is like, what the... And he's an ex-detective, so he's like, what the fuck?
Truly.
So he calls the chief of police directly to try and... he doesn't want to file a formal complaint. He calls the chief of police to be like, listen, I'm going to talk to you directly, but instead of like an apology or like an explanation, basically the guy just says, I have total faith in my men, and that's it. So he doesn't even get like an explanation or anything.
Also, like your faith is whack, dude. Like, what are you talking about?
Meanwhile, Lorne is like trying to test like trash chutes with like test subjects. So Ant continued to act strange. He basically was like really weird. Phoebe's friend said he was able to like turn his emotions on and off pretty rapidly for no good reason.
Yeah, great.
And yeah, a major rift formed between the families. They actually had their own separate funerals and memorial services.
Ow.
Like, which I'm like, get her name out of your mouth, man.
Please.
If you're not going to come to the family service, like,
Truly.
go away.
Truly.
So Aunt's family hosted theirs at a yacht club, and according to friends who went, it was like really cold and sterile and like didn't feel like personal to Phoebe at all.
Ugh.
And on the other hand, Phoebe's family did like a really beautiful Norwegian funeral where they had a boat carved, and at a lakeside they did a farewell service, put her ashes and letters from family and friends, draped the boat in marigold, and pushed it into the lake, which I was like, that's beautiful.
Like what peaceful men do.
I know.
Also, I was gonna like not trying to sound ignorant, but in my head, like if it's like in some magical place like Iceland or Norway, like I just imagine it's like a Viking funeral with
Viking funeral.
So
I had the same
was
thought.
gonna say, and then you said they like basically put her out to sea in a boat, and I was like, holy shit, it's kind of a little like a Viking.
And then they set it on fire. No, they didn't set it on fire. I was like,
just draped it in marigolds. Like, damn,
yeah,
that's so wonderful.
I know, it's really beautiful. So essentially, it was really tough because, again, Aunt's family's like big kahunas, and basically he was friends with his family was friends with like all the top lawyers in town, so like they couldn't even get a fucking decent lawyer to represent them.
Calciprese.
Yeah, and they had to hold fundraisers to even like pay their legal bills. So they did an inquest, and they found like that the bruises weren't accounted for in the bruising on the arms wasn't accounted for in the coroner's original report. And another pathologist noted that the bruising is typically seen when someone is holding another person's arms really aggressively. Oh. So it could have been like maybe carrying them to the chute or dragging them.
Trying to lift her maybe?
Yes, exactly. Like put your hands around their arms. And when Phoebe died, she had a therapeutic amount of Stilnox, which is like the equivalent of Ambien, basically.
Holy shit, okay.
In her blood. So she had basically been taking just like a normal dose of like Ambien, which, to be fair, like I've known people who take Ambien and it can
rock your
you
world.
Up.
Yeah.
Especially if you're drinking alongside it. So she did have like a small amount of Stilnox or Ambien in her blood, and she had 0.16 blood alcohol. So she was, at the time of her death, 3 times the legal driving limit of alcohol in her system. Wow. So she was intoxicated for sure, and on like the equivalent of Ambien. So under that context, or in that context, you can maybe imagine like, you know, people sleepwalk, people do weird things. Like maybe she was just, you know, quote unquote, not in the right mind, and like, this.
I get it. Like, truly maybe, but
truly
like,
maybe.
That's like, to me, like an 80-20 situation.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think that's the answer personally, but
one thing seems to make more sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. And even the doctors at the inquest were skeptical, because they were basically saying like, it seems like you'd be less likely to complete a very difficult task, like a physical labor of getting yourself in a trash chute, if you were on sleeping pills.
Sure.
And drunk, you know, it seems like you wouldn't.
I can't do that at my best energy level. Like, let alone here, knock yourself the fuck out and try to lift yourself. Okay, no.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, people do weird things on Ambien, but like this is just next level. And so they were like, it was really fishy. Also, Phoebe was claustrophobic. So they were like, I don't think in like her subconscious she would get inside a trash chute. That seems like not like her at all.
Right.
So when Phoebe was found, this is another weird fact that like just somehow got ignored during the initial investigation, quote unquote investigation. So when Phoebe was found, her jeans were halfway down her thighs. And there was no sign of sexual assault. So it's just like, why? Like it's just really strange, because if she had gone head first, then you can understand why maybe her pants had slid up.
Sure.
But she went down feet first. So like, how did her pants get down her legs? It's just an odd, seemingly her pants were down her legs before she got in the trash chute.
In my mind, which again, like I'm making up an entire situation that it doesn't even matter if it's relevant to the story. I've just already decided this is how my brain works. I feel like maybe someone thought that if they took the clothes off, then she might look like she was a little more crazed or something, and it would almost like fit a profile of like her definitely it being medically induced in some way. or like maybe they thought that she would slide down faster without pants on. I don't know. I have no idea.
But they were like halfway on. It was just weird because it was like,
and then gave up and then was like, okay, this is too much. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe. I also wonder, like, okay, so, but the other thing that I find interesting is if your pants are halfway down your legs, you're not lifting your legs 6 feet in the air.
That's an excellent point. You know what I mean? That's an excellent point.
Like, because if your pants are not even on all the way, like, it's hard enough to climb into a
when my pants are half off, I can't even like walk across the room. So.
No, I fall directly onto my face. Yeah,
so there
exactly.
You have it. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just weird. And again, there was no evidence of sexual assault. No one could really answer this question. Maybe somebody said like maybe once she had fallen, she tried to take them off. Remember, she was still alive when she fell. Like maybe she tried
was trying to like tie off her foot or something.
Yes, exactly. That was one of the thoughts. Like maybe she's trying to rip them to stop the bleeding. So again, really strange. So the inquest spanned 3 weeks. Aunt only attended twice, once to give evidence and once as a spectator. And after all of that, the coroner still found, even though the doctors and all that testified, he found that it was an accidental death. So he didn't change his mind.
Wow.
And basically Phoebe's family was like, listen, this coroner made up his mind from day one. He wasn't going to change it. So it's just really sad. And so since Phoebe's inquest and the launch of this podcast, Phoebe's Fall, that I mentioned, the Victorian government has pledged to reform the Coroner's Act. So that's at least, one good thing out of this. Obviously, Phoebe's grandfather has said, like, that is not enough,
Sure.
Understandably. And Aunt has moved on. I mean, either way, whether he did it or not, which, like, again, to be clear, he's never been formally suspected. But he moved on, so either way, good for him. However, so he got remarried, then he got divorced, then he started dating again. But then the most shocking thing, not the most shocking, but a pretty shocking thing happened in June of 2018. Aunt's girlfriend, 25-year-old Bailey Schneider, was found dead in her home.
Okay.
And it was ruled a suicide.
Shut the fuck up. Okay, that's the smoking gun right there.
Fucking fishy. So basically, this is like from Crime Junkie, but she lived at home with her parents, and on Friday she'd gone to a party.
Also, she was 25. She was also the same age, and there was still that age gap. It almost feels like he's like got
almost exact
a type.
age.
It's like he's got an MO.
Yeah, so she got home around 8:30 or 9, like in the morning. Her parents saw her, they passed ways, and then later on when they got home, they found her slumped on the kitchen floor dead with a cord around her neck. Now, this is the wildest thing. Police ruled her death a suicide by hanging. However, there was not one item in that kitchen where she could have hanged herself from.
I was going to say, I have a guaranteed hunch that there was something tied around her neck and nowhere it could have connected to.
Hanged her. Yes, exactly. So
it's like, it's just like an extra fuck you because like, if you're going to cover up a murder, like at least pretend to put some elbow grease in it. Like,
yeah, you're not even trying.
Like when you're just like, I'll put this here for like the aesthetic, and like it doesn't matter because I'm gonna get away with it anyway. Like that's just like the most narcissistic part of it all.
It's awful. So yeah, basically there was nothing in the room to hang herself from. They didn't take any evidence. They just decided it was a suicide. They didn't take her phone, and it took the family months of fighting before the police even took the phone as evidence. So again, like I'm not saying it's Aunt. It doesn't have to be him, but like maybe it's someone affiliated with the family. Maybe it's somebody else, an outsider, a friend, who knows? But like, it's just really weird that this happened, especially twice.
Yeah.
To like quote unquote suicides that are questionable at best.
Well, now it also makes sense. Things earlier, I didn't totally understand them of like, oh, why she's dyeing her hair black and shit. Because like for someone who's, probably who was thinking of fleeing, she probably got in a dispute of some physical version with him at some point, and I guarantee he threatened like, do you know who my family is? Like, you don't get to leave me. Like, yeah. I can imagine that conversation having happened. So she probably felt stuck and was like trying to just force herself to fit into the family because she probably felt like she couldn't leave anymore.
Yeah, and with the emails to her mom saying like I might need to leave the country.
Yeah, it makes so much sense.
But then you mix that with like the therapist was saying, she was in a really terrible mental state. She was drinking on benders heavily. She was taking recreational drugs and Ambien and had already a history of, mental illness. It's like,
I wonder what the, I hate to pry into a new person or a new victim, but like, I would be interested to see what the mental history of his other girlfriend that died was, because it would be interesting to see if his MO are people who conveniently would have done this or like had more probable cause to seem off or unstable. So if something were to happen, the finger could be quickly pointed somewhere else. I wonder like if that's like, okay, they're much younger than me. And also, I mean, I want to make it clear, I don't give a shit like about like age differences and all that, but it's just interesting coincidentally that both people happen to be like 15 years his junior, and they both died by very suspicious suicides. So I wonder if there's also a mental history thing he tends to go for.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but the fact that like basically the second quote unquote suicide like couldn't have been a suicide is like the wildest part to me, because I'm like, with the first one, yes, people, you know, with Elisa Lam and stuff, like you want to believe some fantastical story, but mental illness is a fucking killer sometimes. And like if she was really suffering, or, you know, if she had an undiagnosed, you know, bipolar or things like that, that can lead you to do manic things, especially when you're on substances. Like, I'm not saying he did it, because it's like, I understand the nuance of being on drugs, having a dependency problem, like mental illness, but then to have the second person quote unquote hang herself from nothing is like, wait, that part I can't push aside.
But then it's like, yes, I understand, like I like to think that we both are active allies for those that, you know, in the mental illness community or mental health community, not mental illness community, yikes, but like obviously like mental health could have been a factor or could have been the whole story for all we know. But this second one happening just completely like, the mental health part doesn't even matter to me for either situation.
That really fishy.
Like, I don't even care. Like I personally think like absolutely not did it have anything to do with her own personal health.
Yeah, and like again, who knows if like, I mean, listen, I watch all these shows, How to Get Away with Murder, the Scandal, and all that. Like maybe Shonda Rhimes style, like there's another person in the family who's a killer, and anybody he dates, like they who knows? Like I'm not saying it's him, but I'm saying something fishy is happening here, and but again, also, if he did kill her, like why? There's not really a clear reason. Like I guess maybe in a fit of anger, like they got into a fight and he pushed her down the chute, and yeah, I mean that would make sense, I guess. But there's, other than that, like I guess not really that much evidence. I mean, the family even liked him. It's not like they were like he was such a terrible jerk.
I mean, again, there's no like real clean-cut evidence of this, but I really have a weird feeling that it's like some sort of serial killer thing where he has an MO and he goes after people who already have this kind of storyline or like dark past, and like they're kind of reckless, so if they were to leave out of nowhere, no one would really be surprised. And again, it has nothing to do with the story you've just told. And
also, I'd like to be clear, like, this guy was not ever formally considered a suspect. And, innocent. Like, we are not saying he is, because podcasts have been sued for less. But no, so I'm certainly not saying that. But yeah, no, I find it also very fishy, I will say. I find it also extremely fishy. And just the whole thing together, plus the second girlfriend is like, what are you doing? What's going on? Either that, or you're like the most unlucky man alive somehow, you know. It's like, eesh.
I don't know why I have such intense feelings about it. This is just such a juicy in a bad way story.
I know.
Anyway, so, I'm sorry if I'm coming off intense. I just like
no.
I understand also, like, we do not want to get sued, and I'm not saying
I'm just trying to.
I'm not saying anyone's a serial killer. I'm just saying, like, if I were to put all the pieces together in my head, if this were a Law and Order episode, I would assume, if I were guessing the end of this, it would end with it not being the victim's fault here, or, you know, them being responsible for it in any way. I think it's just too perfectly convenient and
okay, but if I were writing the story, it would be, you'd think it's the boyfriend, and then it's like the mom or something, and she has a vendetta against his girlfriends.
That's just Hollywood, baby. That's the
like, he has a type, but somebody else is after them. No, okay. Yeah. Anyway, who knows? This is clearly a mystery for a reason. So these are like the last bullets. Years after her death, Christina Hampel, his sister, aunt's sister, posted a Facebook photo of Phoebe. She wrote, I just stumbled across my favorite pic of beautiful Phoebe. I miss you, darling. You are a fragile little flower that no one watered. You and your family were let down by the justice system and those who represent it. I can only hope that the truth will come out so they may have some peace. And it was only up for 12 hours and was then deleted. So it's like a little weird that either she deleted it or someone told her to delete it. But also just a little strange that she deleted it pretty quickly. So it's also hard to be even sure what happened because like the evidence was never collected. So like we don't even know half the story basically. But if you listen to Phoebe's Fall, the podcast, it's a 6-episode series and has a lot of detail. They interview Phoebe's family members and friends, so you can hear it firsthand. But anyway, that is the story of Phoebe Handsjuk. I'm sorry that was long and we had technical issues.
No, it's not you. I was just like screaming random information at you.
It's so weird.
It's too so weird. It's too weird because like it really could be a mental health thing. Sure. It really could be a family that happens to know enough dirty cops in some way. I mean, it just be like, why was nobody picking up the blood and looking at evidence? I don't.
It's infuriating.
That alone makes me think like, okay, so this is not as innocent of a case as it seems. In my head, allegedly.
But if you think about it, so many of these cases go that way, where it's like, guess what? Nobody got the CCTV footage. Guess what?
Yeah.
They just assumed
You're right.
I feel like there's
You're
so
right.
many mishandlings, and this one's just like such a, crazy example because it's a trash shoot. But I feel like a lot of times, like they're just like, meh, it's a suicide.
This one's also, I think, just more shocking because it's like, it's not like you had to go digging for evidence. It was literally in front of your very eyes. It was like it wasn't like,
it's so blatant.
What is this about? We have to go open an investigation and really go digging for stuff. It's like, there is blood everywhere. Like
there's
you don't
blood,
even have to try.
Broken glass. There is literally trash bags already in trash bag. Like there's trash evidence in trash bags for you to just pick up and like nobody even like open them or looked at them. I think that's
why it's more shocking because like,
okay,
it's so there's no CCTV footage. Wow, shocker. That's happened a million times. Like, it's so gross.
And the fact that the murder was so wild, like the death, I should say, was so wild. Like that alone too is like, wait, so you saw this person falling down a trash chute and you were like, okay, we don't need any more information. It's like if somebody or a hanging where it wasn't attached to anything. Like
I would literally be like, how? Okay, so clearly this body is on the floor. Where did they fall from? Oh, nothing.
It's just wild. I'm like, how?
Also, like, how many people have died in real life by having like a rope tied around their neck and they're being strangled? Like, there's like,
listen,
something.
I'm listening to an audiobook where that exact thing happened.
And you know what? There could have literally been like strangulation marks all over that body from another person, and they would have been like, well, we don't have enough evidence. Like at that,
we didn't take any evidence.
At this point, I have like, if they weren't willing to do that for the first girlfriend, like I have no faith in how they handled the second one.
No.
So like,
no,
it's just really icky and gross and terrible, and I have no idea what happened. And I really, really, really hope that it wasn't a mental health thing because that just makes it extra sad. But
I mean, I want to believe, like, I hope it's not a guy.
I hope it's not someone murdering people either.
His partner, but
I don't know.
God, it's just so sad. I mean, I'd like to talk to his ex-wife and be like, what do you think? Not like, but just be like, what do you think? Like, what is his personality behind closed doors?
Yeah.
Like the one he married in between the two deaths. I want to know like what she thinks.
Yeah. I really hope it was all accidental, but like, I don't know. I mean, there's only so much. So like,
I feel like twice is becoming a pattern, like especially with death. Like
also
quote,
like
unquote, suicide.
if it were substance abuse for her, or if she was like not properly medicated for something else like really going on, then like why wasn't that like was that in the tox report? And they like said like how much shit was in her other than like one Ambien? Like
it was.
I guess Ambien's crazy, but it's.
She was pretty drunk, so that part, I guess, mixed with Ambien, and you don't know how a body's going to react, like how each individual will react to that.
You're just watching me so frustrated because I don't have an answer. I'm just like,
I know,
getting
that's
really heated because I'm like, maybe it's this one, but maybe it's not this one. I'm very angry.
These are the most fascinating to talk about, but also like the most frustrating because you're like, well, fuck. Like,
anyway,
at the end, you don't have an answer. So hopefully someday they do get an answer because I can't imagine being the family. Like, I can't imagine. What that would be like.
As a stranger who just heard about it, I'm pissed. I can't imagine.
Exactly.
So to reiterate, we don't claiming any one of
No.
them is what happened. I have my my personal
Suspicions.
my personal hunch. But Jesus, like I'm just
definitely
mad.
I definitely have grievances above all else of like there could have been so much more information and like
it probably wouldn't be a mystery if
exactly
a certain group of people just did their fucking job.
Just like got the footage of the hallway to see if she was alone walking to the garbage chute.
Bada bing, bada boom. Wow.
Yep. Anyway. On that note.
I'm so sorry. I really hope I didn't bother anybody because I started screaming about mental health, and I'm hoping I said nothing wildly offensive.
No. I mean, I think everyone should know where we stand on that topic.
Anyway, this is like one of the first ones that you've done where I got like really heated. Like I am so upset I don't have an answer. But great. Well, that being said, I'm going to go scream into a pillow now.
Yay!
Thank you guys for...
I'm going to go knock my feet on the floor.
Oh, wow. I thought I couldn't feel worse. And now you've combined both issues I've seen today.
You're going to have weird dreams tonight.
Yikes. I'm going to start hearing knocking on doors and think you're like walking on walls.
My feet are coming.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much. If you want to follow us, we have, and that's why we drink.com. Our socials are ATWD podcast.
Go buy our comic book.
Go buy our comic book. We have some merch left, but
yes, we have
much.
koozies and a comic book. Go buy it. ATWWDmerch.com.
And
that's
why
we
drink.